on and turn this back on. Okay.
Give me a minute.
Wolf Gaming, if you're here, let me know if you can hear me. So we just finished. Actually, I don't think he's here anymore. Um, Interesting. We can go. I'm gonna go through. Let's go through. I'll pull the lyrics up on screen so people can see. Those are better. God, why are these all so bright? Let's turn that down a little bit. There we go. Oh, thanks for the follow. Dream About Me? Good name. I like that name. Okay. Interesting. I can see why this would be controversial now. I thought this was going to be something different. This is not what I was expecting out of the song. So now I kind of see why it's a little controversial.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you... Do you want to give your thoughts on it first?
Me?
Yeah. What are
I
your...
like the song. I think it's a good song. I think the topic is controversial, and there will be people who are offended by things from it. As much as I don't see it being, how do I say this? As much as I wouldn't take offense from it. I can see if how people would take offense of it, and if someone feels offended by it, I think they have the right to that. I think it was done in a way that, if we grow as a society, like this should be allowed. Because the two things that I've heard people say is the F word.
Yeah.
Like he says that, and the second thing is him when he's talking about people in his family and this and that. He misgenders them. And my take on that is
Where does he
um
misgender them?
just throughout this song, people say that like the people say he misgenders some, but
Oh, because he says her. Okay. Because he says my
but
auntie's a man
to
now, so
that,
it should be he.
yeah, but here's the catch. I believe that is right, because the way he's telling the story is
About their
his
past.
experience, yeah, and is the past, and closer to the end as the song progresses, he's doing that less, and he's being more open to it. So it's like him talking about his experience with these people in his life, and as he grows up and kind of understands how that works and how the world sees it and how he sees it, and understands that this is a new thing, and he's learning about it as they're transitioning and as the world is learning,
Yeah.
right? So I think the whole like I don't think Kendrick doesn't know that he didn't use the right pronouns in the beginning. I think that's just the writing style of it,
Yeah,
right? It
like if you're
was a
writing
writing
about
tool.
like the past, like where Kendrick knew
Yeah,
them as a woman.
it's it's a writing tool to show how people progress, how people can learn
But then he
about
also
certain
says,
things
I
and
watch
grow.
him and his girl hold their hands down. So he doesn't like consistently do it. When he's talking about like things that are happening now, he does say him. Like
See,
it
well,
seems like he
I see
switches
is in
back
the
and forth.
beginning. In the beginning, he's always talking with the wrong.
No, the third line in. Hold on.
Hold up,
He
I need to
says,
bring it up.
drinking with a hat turned backwards, motor pager. Let's see. Big social, big personality, vocal, played underground. The second time he says, "Man, he's a man now." I watch him and his girl hold their hands down.
Yeah,
So he does say
and
him,
then
like even at the beginning, but it seems like the way he switches it
the
is like,
first time he says it,
yeah. But
uh,
in the first time he says it, he's referring to a past thing.
yeah, so it's drinking posted with her hat turned backwards, and then it goes to I watch him and his girl holding hands now,
Yeah. So I'm old
tipping
enough
it.
to understand now drinking with our hat turned backwards. So that seems like it's like talking about a past memory. Whereas the second one is he's watching her now or him now with
Well, not
his
now, but like
more.
two different times where things have changed,
Yeah, that's what I'm
right?
saying. Is like more
Yeah,
recent, more relevant, right?
yeah.
Like a time past versus a time before. So I don't know if that's like I can understand why people might have issue with that because some people don't even like when like if someone's transitioned, you should never, even if you're talking about like previous interactions or history or whatever, you shouldn't refer to them as that the gender they were at the time or like their expression at the time.
Hmm.
I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one to, because I think it depends on person to person. Because some people don't mind that, but some people really do. Um,
But
but I
see,
don't know if
I feel
it's.
like this is, um,
I think it's an artistic choice, and I'm not necessarily mad at it myself.
yeah. And if I mean, this is just one song out of the album, which is like taking a scene of a movie out of the movie.
Yeah,
Uh, so but the context of the rest of the album is pretty much a lot to do with this. The album, from what I took from the first few listens, is a lot of just like personal things for Kendrick, and him dealing with, oh, I might have trauma from this. I need therapy for this stuff, and then the other underlying theme is about um not necessarily cancel culture, but just everybody being so quick to judge people and not being able to give your opinion.
yeah.
And
Let's see.
I mean,
Where
you
does
might
he
think,
refer?
oh,
Is there a
those,
place where he like specifically kind of like goes into that? Let's see.
which one?
Like the cancel culture stuff. Like, is there like
Not,
any line
I
specifically,
don't
or
think
is it just the
I don't think
overall
on this
tone of
song.
it?
I don't think on this song, but there is
Oh, okay.
lines in other songs. Um, and I mean, those intertwine with the thought of like, yes, I want to get my thoughts out, but like, it's kind of scary, you know?
I think the only lyrics that I've seen that have bothered me was lyrics giving instructions on how to commit crimes. I haven't listened to all the album. We're just discussing this one song because I just listened to it. Rams is
100%.
which? Do you know which song it is? Rams is gonna know more than I do because
Or
I'm
is that
just
a
kind of.
troll comment?
No. That's Cloward. That's someone we know. That's not a troll comment. I can't imagine it would be. He doesn't. I don't think he would troll me like that.
Hmm.
I took pride in it. She wasn't gay. And that was. I'll get the name in a minute. Okay. Um, she's speaking from school. They stare at her face. They couldn't comprehend what I grew accustomed.
If you don't care of keeping today's stream up, you can listen to songs.
Yeah, but I feel like the conversations are gonna be interesting. I do want to keep it up.
We can always edit it, but yeah, no.
I can edit it if I was gonna post it to YouTube, but you can't like post talk edit it for like
Yeah.
in Twitch, which kind of sucks. Like I wish you could do what you do in YouTube and like cut out certain segments or mute certain segments. But I can also
Yeah.
just mute the stream for like 4 minutes while we listen to the song and then go back to it. Or even I could like listen to a snippet and then just pull up the lyrics, which would be interesting.
Is there a
Like,
way for you to listen to it without it being on stream?
I can play it off my phone and just mute my side,
Mm.
right? I can just like listen to it on my phone, but like have
I
my.
think it would be good to like hear you as you listen to it, but not listen to the song.
Yeah, I would like to, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, we could even like I could listen to a snippet of the song to get a vibe for it, but also just pull up the lyrics and read through them would be interesting. I'm okay
Mm.
doing that.
I think. Oh, I'm trying to. But yeah. So what about the other part of him using that word?
Okay, I have like two separate stances on this, and I don't know which one I like lean towards because part of okay, so me personally, I don't care about slurs. It's never something that's
Mm.
bothered me. I've had slurs used towards me both racially and like on the basis of my sexuality, and it's not
Mm.
something that ever really bugged me. Like I get why we stigmatize them, but at the same time, I also just don't care. Because like unlike an actual insult to me, like an insult is something that means something in and of itself. You know what I mean? Like an insult like you suck, right? Or like you suck at
Mm.
this thing is like an insult within itself because it's telling you you're bad and like the word itself is an insult. Whereas something like a slur to me always just felt like okay, like you're just calling me a thing I am in a way that is supposed to be derogatory, but like if you call me a like if you called me a faggot, it's like I don't really care. Yeah, I am, but you're just using a worse word for it, but I don't care. Like I don't know, like for me it just like I never really was like bothered by slurs that much, but I also understand why people are. I just think it's something
Mm.
that needs to be like destigmatized a little bit because I think we like overhype like the badness of slurs.
Yeah.
I can't talk for anyone else because like obviously not all slurs are hurled at me, but that's my general stance on slurs.
Mm.
But I think culturally, if we're gonna stigmatize certain slurs like the N word so hard, then we can't make it okay for those people like for people who like really hate the N word to also use like slurs that like don't apply to them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if you have a really hard stance about people using the word like the F word or anything like that, but then you're okay with people like there's oh, this was a huge thing with the streamer. The streamer that
Cracker.
I no. There's a streamer I watch, and he's like Cuban, and people will call him a gusano, which is like
Hmm.
like a slur for specifically him, like his type of people, like Cuban Americans. And
Hmm.
so he's like, and people will hurl it at him. And he's like, these people, like a lot of people, like who say it to him will like harp about how bad the N word is, how bad the F word is, like how bad all these other slurs are. But then we'll turn around and use that one because they just don't consider it as bad. I'm like, you either have to have a stance that like all slurs are bad or all slurs are okay. Like I don't think you can have both. And for me, I just think all slurs are okay. I just don't care. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think like it doesn't mean anything to me.
Hmm.
But I think if Kendrick or anyone who's getting mad about like fuck, if Kendrick's okay with other people saying the N word that aren't black, then I would be okay with this song.
Hmm.
But if he's someone who doesn't like non-black people using the N word, then I would say that that's more my like I think that's okay. Going to the root of my issue, it depends on Kendrick's personal stand on like what you can say. Or I don't know if he's gay. I don't know if he's bi actually. If he
No,
isn't,
no,
that's
no,
a different
no, no.
conversation. But
I
like,
mean,
if yeah.
but he's married and everything, so not likely. But my
Oh, I didn't know
takeaway
he
is
was married.
also
Damn.
yeah. That's like another thing about the album. Even that if you, I mean, the album cover he has his
Oh, I
wife
want
in
to
the back
add
of the
one more
screen.
caveat.
Yeah.
If what was I gonna say? If he's okay, if someone else used the N word in a similar type of manner, like he might not go around saying the F word to people,
But he
right?
does.
But if
He
he
does.
was okay with someone else using in an artistic context to like make a point, then I would be okay with him doing it. Like if he would like have the same stance on like
He
someone
touches on that in the last
does he?
lyric.
Well, yeah, he does, but like I don't
Yeah.
know in which context he means it
So
because
there's
it
also
seems like almost
so
ironic the way, especially the way he delivers it. Seems like it's almost like an irony type of thing. Like
so there's like I was saying about the pronouns and everything. His choice to use the word I feel like is another like writing tool and everything because when he's using that right, he repeats that a couple times, so that works as the song's hook, right? So
yeah.
when we're talking about a timeline, that's the hook, so that's gonna repeat itself. But there is a part within the song. If
Hey,
I can
Bitrot,
find
bite.
it.
It's going good. We're discussing.
The days I chose humanity over religion, the family got closer. It was all forgiven. I said them f bombs. I ain't know any better. Mistakenly, I ain't think that you know any difference. Like to a point in the song, he then turns from using the word to saying f bomb.
Yeah, like he realizes like that it's not a good thing, which is like good because it shows his growth. But again, I think my only like my position on this would be like if he was okay with someone else using like the N word in a similar way in another like in an artistic manner to like make a point, I'd be okay
Hmm.
with them using the F word. But I think it just has to be like it. I don't know. I don't like that we create double standards around like oh these slurs are worse than these slurs. So like
I
if you
think I don't either, but I think the N word is like a again. Like, there's more sense for every. The N word is a very special case, a very special case.
I think it is, but I also if you're gonna take it that seriously, which is like you are completely entitled to take slurs as seriously as you want, but if you're gonna take like one slur specifically seriously and you're okay with like using other slurs, I don't know. I think that's a weird double standard to have because for me, I don't say any slurs except for the ones that apply to myself, which I'm like fine saying because obviously like I've had them hurled at me. That's like and culturally that's
Hmm.
usually the standard is like if it's a slur about you, you can use it, right? So I'm I just don't use any slurs as much as I can because I think they're stupid. I think they're useless like meaningless words, and so I don't like engage in like I don't use slurs. But if you're someone who's like, you know, because I'm more oppressed than you or like my slur is worse than yours, I can use your slur but you can't use mine. I think that's a weird standard to have. To me that
Hmm.
seems like super I just yeah, I think like if you're going to take the stance that like you can't use slurs because it's against a different group, then I'm like then you can't use like I don't care like what your slur means. I don't care whose slur is worse. You just should not be able to use slurs then. Like that should
Hmm.
like I just want yeah. Cloud Van said it, but I want consistency.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I just like to me, like just like I understand your point and everything. To me personally, this is just the N word is like a different
I agree.
Read.
I think the N word is probably worse than like the F word, right? But
Yeah.
if you're gonna take the stance that like people shouldn't say slurs and like this person shouldn't use this slur or whatever unless like you're in that group, then you shouldn't like if he doesn't want people saying the N word or if like certain people don't want people saying the N word, then you can't turn around and say like, but I can still use like the F word because it's not as bad as the N word. I think
Right.
that's a
Well,
stupid standard.
but I also feel like within context is an
Sure,
important thing
within
because you
context,
can
but then
have
you would
you
also
can
have
have
to say
two
that
different you
like
can have two different stances within with different like context and stuff, right? Because
yeah, but then would he be okay with someone else using the N word in like the same
oh,
context
that's what
though?
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He's probably not okay with someone being like, "What's up, my
Yeah.
that word," right?
Yeah.
But maybe in the context of this, that's what's important, right?
Yeah. But again, like so for me it's like I can't see inside Kendrick's head, so I would assume he's enough of an artist to like realize like if someone else used the same word in the same like it or the N word in like a similar manner in a different piece of art, he'd probably be okay with it.
Hmm.
I just think for like anyone who's like I think anyone who's really mad about the F word just to get over it. I honestly I hate slur discourse. I think it's so stupid. Like I don't think we should use slurs because I think they're meaningless dumb words. But
Hmm.
also, if someone uses a slur against me, I just don't care. I sincerely like it's never bugged me. I've had slurs hurled at me. I've had the F word slurred at me, the D word, like racial slurs, like all these type of things. I've had them happen, and it just never bugged me to an extent. Like it just seemed like again for me, it's like an insult is worse because it's like inherently means something negative, whereas like a slur usually is just like a more negative word for something that you actually are. Like if someone
Hmm.
calls me like again, if someone calls me a faggot, I don't really care. You're calling me something I am, but you're just using a word that you think is meaner for the same category, and so it doesn't mean
Hmm.
anything to me, right? Like I just yeah. Let's see.
Hmm.
I think the N word needs to be reclaimed and then defanged. Having banned words is endlessly stupid to me. Intent matters, not the word used. The problem is hate. Yeah, I think that's like the whole thing is like I think if we got to a world where everyone was like pretty equal, like I don't think anyone would care who said these words. But I think in the world we live in right now, where it's we have injustices and we have like discrimination, all this like these stupid things. I just think slurs are stupid words that we shouldn't use. The fear and the bother isn't the word, it's the person with malintent, and a truly even person can use the politest words and still make you feel worthless and unwanted. That I like half agree with that because people also even get mad in like an educational setting. If someone says like the N word in like even like when your teacher
Like reading
reading a
To
book,
Kill a
yeah,
Mockingjay,
yeah,
or Mockingbird, or whatever.
yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird or like Huckleberry Finn, like people were really mad at teachers who used the word, but like that teacher had no malintent by like pronouncing the word
Hmm.
straight out of the book. Maybe they shouldn't do it. Maybe they should. I just don't know if stigmatizing a word to the point that like you can't even say it in an academic setting feels a little bit weird to me. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think we need to destigmatize the words a little bit, and I think like malintent should be the concern. But I don't think with like certain words, I don't think we care about malintent. I think we just think anyone who's not black who says the word, and same with like faggot. It's like anyone who's not gay who says the word is like automatically like, how dare you even let the word like how dare you even utter it, like how dare you let it leave your lips, even if you're just
Hmm.
saying it in like an academic setting or like any other type of like setting other than like an intentional like you're throwing it at somebody. It seems yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
The reason some words are called slurs is because the intent is hate. I think things are called slurs just because they come out of like a derogatory setting, right? Like these words like come like they're created out of hate. It's not just that the intent is hate. It's like the creation of the word itself was like hatefully driven. It was like a degrading word for a group of people that you wanted to like categorize. So like faggot, it was like supposed to.
Uh, Not all the time.
Most of the
Like
time,
like
that's what it is.
not isn't some cause there are words that are offensive that weren't created offensive, but you for autistic people and stuff, right? Certain words that we use that were made just to categorize them, then turn into offensive words and become
Yeah, I
slurs,
guess that's fair.
right?
Let's see. Fuck. Well, the intent. That's why I'm detailing the word from intent. Stigmatizing the word is dumb. Uh, but words can be used neutrally in an academic setting. You don't need to use slurs to make an immigrant feel bad. You can simply chant "Go home." No slurs used. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's ways you can like make people feel like shit without using slurs, but like I think slurs specifically, like, they're meant to make people feel like shit. And maybe this is
Hmm.
like, yeah, again, it's always been like a personal stance. I don't care about slurs. I would rather someone hurl a slur at me because at least then I know you're racist than just call me like, I don't know, scum of the earth, like shitty human being. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's like 100 times worse because you're like, you're actively talking about like my character or like something about me that's bad. Whereas like again, if you call me like the F word or if you call me like I don't know some like stupid racial slur, it means nothing to me. Like you're using a more negative word for like a group of people that I belong to. Like okay, good job. You accurately categorized me with a really shitty word. Like oh,
Hmm.
fine. I don't care. Yeah. What about you? How do you feel about slurs, Rams? Sorry, I went on a whole tirade.
I
That was
love
a
them.
you. Oh, okay. Whole
No.
different. Yeah,
Uh,
can you imagine? Rams just starts like, I love this one. I love this one.
I
Oh
don't
yeah, I
think.
should
Yeah.
pull up the other song lyrics. Hold on, I'll do that. You keep talking.
Oh, that's not even like a Kendrick song. That's a YG song. Came out years ago.
Oh,
Uh,
this isn't even
yeah,
a Kendrick song.
yeah. Uh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't think any word should be censored. Again, I have a different stance with the N word than any other word, but I don't think that words should continue to be censored because they're offensive and because it hurts a certain group that we shouldn't be able to say it anymore. I don't like. I'm never gonna call someone these slurs, but if we're discussing them,
Yeah.
uh, like if we're discussing a word and we say F word or we interchange that with the actual word,
Mm-hmm.
is anything different? Because we all know what it means, you know.
Yeah.
And the only
Yeah.
reason I won't say it right now is because of Twitch, right?
Yeah.
Twitch's rule.
But like if I
But
was talking to someone one on one and like someone said it in a sense that they weren't like calling somebody it or they weren't saying it
yeah,
to someone, I don't think it would bother me that much. 'Cause I think I would understand at that point that like we're talking specifically about like we're talking about the word in context and you're not like using it in a derogatory way. I don't yeah, I feel like people are really, really sensitive about slurs. Like, and now we're overly sensitive. Like, anytime you see it on, like, if someone even uses, like, I remember a teacher got into, like, 2 years back, got in a bunch of trouble because her students, like, put her on blast being like, oh, like, we were reading the book and she just, like, openly said it. And it's like, she read it out of a line in a book. Is this really the hill you want to die on? Is this, like, what
yeah,
we care about? Like, I don't, like, I sincerely think this is, like, the dumbest shit we could care about.
yeah,
But I don't know. Yeah, that always bothers me.
yeah. I mean, yeah. And like, if we were on Twitch, I would just say, "Oh, Kendrick said this word in a song," but like on Twitch you have to be like he said the F word or whatever. And I don't agree with that.
That song is literally instructional on targeting a minority and how to rob that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I skimmed through the lyrics there for a second. Oh no, I guess it's bad. I don't know if I care about that much because like really, if you are gonna like go rob someone, I don't know this song is gonna like encourage people to rob people. I don't know if like a single song has enough
Oh, I
like
remember
power.
this song.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
know
so
if
so this song had some controversy because uh, fuck, what are the lyrics?
like if someone's gonna rob
Something
somebody, I don't
something.
think like it's because of
No,
the
no, no,
song.
no, no, no. It's something something. Stake a. It's basically robbing a Chinese house and then using like a Chinese stereotype.
Oh, okay.
That was
That
the
might be a
yeah
little worse.
yeah no
See,
it
that's like
was
bad if you're like because I think like writing a song about how to rob somebody is probably like not gonna encourage anyone to rob somebody, but like using like racial slurs or like racial stereotypes in a song is probably gonna put thoughts in people's head about a group of people. I think you have like much more
I
power in
have
that sense than like yeah.
I got two takes on it. On the first on the Chinese thing, um, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't got any like I don't think any of us can say anything because we're not Chinese or anything. I remember there was a rapper named oh yeah, this is the lyric. Yeah, you find a house and scope it out, find a Chinese neighborhood because they don't believe in bank accounts.
Oh.
There's a rapper named China Mac
Mm-hmm.
who the interview where he was asked about it and he was like, like if you grew up with those with Chinese people around or everything, that's just what happens in those kind of communities and that kind of income and that's what you know about. So like I don't believe that like YG had any ill intent on
Yeah.
saying those lyrics. I do think they're like probably not the best lyrics to say.
Yeah, it's
right?
probably not good, but usually like our beliefs and stereotypes come from somewhere. Like
Yeah.
we
So, but but
probably
but,
all
but
had views about people that we like grew up around that were like made judgments.
yeah, but like if I was making a song and I say something about white people do blah blah blah, and I just say something that like Will and Stefan and like Max and these white people that we live around and we interact with every day do, right? It's a weird take and stereotype because yeah you are kind of stereotyping it, right? But it's coming from your experience,
Yeah,
and those people will be like, but we do that, right? And I'm not saying oh all Chinese people don't believe in bank accounts or anything,
yeah,
but where he's from, right? There might be some truth to that. I don't think you go out and say that or anything.
yeah.
Uh,
I think
uh, uh,
I would
uh
agree with like Cloud Half here. I can't justify any song Will feeling encouraging crimes like this. I don't care really if you like write a song about committing a crime. I don't know if that's like necessarily bad on its own because I don't think it's enough to like make people go out and commit crimes. Whereas like the part about like stereotyping a group of people and like specifically targeting a group of people for crimes, I think is like probably the worst part. Only because I think it's easy enough to like input ideas about people into other people's minds rather than
yeah,
like call them to action to actually commit a crime, right? Like I said earlier, you're like less likely to have someone like go rob somebody because of the song, but you might
yeah,
have people who like now have worse like stereotypes about Asian people in their
yeah.
head because of the song, right? Like those like yeah,
And I mean, the whole encouraging people to. I don't think this is encouraging people wrong. This is something that happens in hip hop. This specific song can be traced back to a Biggie song called 10 Crack Commandments, which is like 10 rules
mm-hmm.
to go by if you're selling crack, right? And it's just Biggie being like, this is like 10 rules I followed when I was selling crack back in the day, right? And then you get people. Hip hop is like all about homages and stuff. People like throwing it back to people that inspire them. So I would figure that YG's, you know, is making a song related to that song, like as a homage or whatever,
Yeah,
and that's where he gets this. And in his case, it's probably big houses and stuff like that. Blah blah blah.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you still have there's another rapper named Benny the Butcher who just did 10 more crack commandments. So it's like a thing that happens. I don't think this is encouraging crime or like teaching people how to commit crime or anything. Like I mean, you could probably learn one or two things about committing this crime, but when people were rapping about stuff like that, they were rapping about their experiences and their conditions and everything. So
Yeah,
YG is from a place where he was, you know, uh, uh, back against the wall, and these are like things that you kind of just have to do, like go rob a house or this. It's not saying that you have to do these, but if those are like the most tempting things to do because of your circumstances,
yeah,
and I believe you have every right to talk about it, and whichever way you choose to talk about it, people are always gonna judge you for like how you talk about it. But I'm not gonna be like, oh, he shouldn't be talking about this, right?
yeah.
I
I
think the
don't know. I just think
subject
like
is valid. How he says, how he goes about it can be criticized, but I think the subject is valid. It's like the
yeah.
whole Asian thing, like the Chinese thing.
I just
That
again I think like I know people hate the like role reversal trope, but like for me it's like if you can write a song like that but wouldn't be okay with a Chinese person writing songs about black people like that, you probably shouldn't write the song. I think that's like my rule. I think like everything has to be like if you would
But
be
I
okay
believe
with it.
if someone said like black people, but like a small thing, like why you wouldn't be like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, you know,
What do you mean?
because like I look at it as like a really small thing. The
Yeah, I
whole
think
we
so
don't believe
too.
in, right? It's not like he called them a chink or anything, right?
Yeah. But like
That would be different, right?
yeah, and my only thing is like again like I think for people who like are okay with a song like that, you would have to be okay with it going the other way.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine because I think, but I also don't know if we should like necessarily encourage. I actually now I'm thinking about that. I don't know if I'd be okay with it. I don't know if I'm okay
Which
with
part? Which part?
like the writing specifically about a group of people in a way that like negatively stereotypes them because I don't think I'm okay with it in this sense of like with the like him talking about Chinese people because I don't think I'd also be okay with it, people talking about like black people in that way. Like if a Chinese person wrote a song about like all the like gangs like black people like or something like wrote a line about
Again,
that
that
in one of their songs, I think I would be like also even though like there's probably is animosity like if you're like a Chinese person growing up in a black neighborhood you might have seen like shit like that but like
but I see it like it's not like him being like, hey, go find a Chinese person. They don't believe in bank accounts and rob them. But him being like, when we used to do this, we knew that our Chinese homies, blah blah blah. This is how they talk about their families and stuff. So when we were going to go pick a house to rob, you know, we kind of had these characteristics that we would take, put in play and be like, okay, this house, you know.
To Cloward, by the way, Nuance Bro, I'm not a big fan of him because my problem with people like Nuance Bro, like when he says the real face of Asian hate, I know he's gonna harp on like the animosity between Black and Asian people and like how much worse like, oh, Black people are to Asian people, without acknowledging ever that like there might be some animosity between like of white people towards Asians or like the other stereotype. Like, I don't like people like Nuance Bro because like he talks at like he calls himself Nuance Bro, but everything I've seen from him is not. But I've only seen like 3 or 4 debates from him. I just haven't been really impressed with his work, but maybe I'll check it out. I'll see if it's any good. Maybe we can watch it on stream, actually. If he doesn't play the song, maybe we can just watch it. I just haven't been a huge fan. Actual Justice Warrior is okay, but...
This to put out, I do remember now, he did take the song off streaming services and then brought it back without the lyric. So if you do go to streaming services, you won't find that lyric anymore.
Oh, okay. That's good. See?
Yeah.
Then I'm actually okay, because at least that's kind of like an acknowledgement of like maybe that wasn't the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know
Again,
what, I can
was,
like... I give
people,
people, I
was
think like it's good.
2014 when the song originally came out.
And if people can like, I like that, yeah, it's like literally like what, 6, 7, 8 years ago now?
Yeah.
Like, that's enough people, like, for like people to grow and like change and like understand what they've done is wrong. Like, I think everyone, like, no matter how old you are, you have to be given room to like grow and be better. Because I think that's a lot of times is like we always give that like courtesy to like people under like 15, but like even like kids who like tweeted stupid shit at 16, we like get canceled now. I disagree with that. I think even like whether you're like 15, whether you're 35, whether you're 60, like you're gonna make mistakes because you don't know any better. And I feel like everyone needs time to grow. Like if you did something stupid 5 years ago and you've changed and you've like shown that you've changed, I think there's no problem with that. Like, so him taking like that line out of a song, like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, he's done something, like, you know, he's acknowledged that this probably wasn't the best thing to write and, like, kind of, like, did something to fix it. And he's like, okay.
There's hell people with lines like that still haven't taken them out.
Oh, of course,
like,
but...
It's crazy how people look at, like, depending on what minority group is being affected, how they were outraged. Cause
oh, 100%.
Not just in hip-hop, but in a lot of music, like, it's not hard to notice like kind of weird lyrics about First Native people. Like a lot of times people will mention First Natives as like Indian.
Yeah.
And I'm still like,
it's 2022,
and y'all still.
To be fair, in Canada, our Indigenous Peoples Act is still called the Indian Act. It's still like in our law system. It's still called that, and it's like this is ridiculous.
Right. It's just I don't. Also, like. Especially like Americans being calling them Indians, I'm just like, what? Like I don't understand any of this.
Yeah.
But, you know, but no one like I've heard Chance a rapper say, I've heard Common say, I've heard Pusha T, I've heard so many people say it, and no one ever points it out or calls it out or anything.
Down here, Indians is the preferred term. I've heard that from like 1 or 2 groups, but like I don't know what most people. But again, I think this is like a. I won't say
being Indian, I don't think it's the right word to use.
Yeah, because for us as actual Indian people, I think we're more annoyed by it than like Indigenous people because they don't mind being called it because I was like maybe the term growing up. But for us, it's like, no, some white dude got lost on the sea and decided to like take our name and give it to like a different group of people.
Not even that. It's like when
like
you
so
hear
for us, it
like,
feels worse.
That name that they gave them because they were gonna come and do horrible things to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that name.
Yeah, right.
Keep using that name.
I don't know. It just feels super like weird to like us as like Indian people like to hear like another group of people called Indians and like they can adopt that name and that's fine. But like I think for like that on one side it's like yeah maybe it's derogatory for them, but like then we've also now made a derogatory word out of like our actual name. I don't know. It feels super weird to me.
It's like you never forget like the whole reason is because they were looking for India to take the spices and just do horrible things to the land and people. Like
what about West Indians? Wait, what? I don't know. I'm fine with it. I think there's like so many words that we use for Native Americans. Like here, the main word that we use now is indigenous. But like, this is another Oh god, that's gonna sound terrible. This is another word or like another issue that I think white people made a really big deal out of when no one else cared. It was like this whole
Hmm.
idea of like what should we call like First Nations people, and it went from Indian to like Aboriginal to Native American to whatever it was. Like there was like a whole series of words like in
Hmm.
my lifetime that we've even gone through, and it's like it kept hearing it change of like, oh, you can't use this anymore, now it's this, and then you couldn't use this anymore, now it's this, and now it's like indigenous people, and that's fine. But like for me, I don't know if like indigenous people were the ones who were like making that decision that like this term wasn't okay. I feel like it was just like one of those things that like one person's like, oh, I don't know if I necessarily like that term, and then like white people like just absolutely ran with it. And it's like, oh no, we need a different word because this one's offensive. And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
What about they be called Indians too, but they're more
but they
like
but they're
Africans.
but they live in the Indi like I think that I mean I don't feel offensive by because like they live there, right? That place
Wait,
is
what does he
called
mean by like West Indians? Is that like is it?
what West India is people native to the West Indies.
Yeah, but that's fine because like I feel like hold on, where is the West Indies?
Africa. I think Africa. I think closer to Africa.
Subregion of North Africa surrounded by North Atlantic oceans,
Yeah,
but it's an actual area.
yeah. You understand? Like all of these names come from
Oh
what
wait,
the
no,
areas were.
it's in yeah North America. It's not Africa.
Is it? Wait, hold up.
I've always heard the word. Okay, I mean I guess if it's yeah Caribbean.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean I feel like that's fine because it's not like it identifies with like do they call them Indian? I don't know. I feel like that's not as big of a deal because it actually like refers to like the land that they're on is called the West Indies. So
Yeah,
it makes more sense whereas like indigenous people like they weren't Indian and there was no place called like I think the context, right? Like so the West Indies is a totally different situation because the place is actually called West Indian or West Indies so we call them Indians. Whereas like with indigenous people it's like they came to a new land that they thought was India, then just tagged those people as Indians, which
yeah.
is not the name for them. It was like is a name for us, and then like
Some
that was it.
middleman got
It was
lost.
like you gave a different group of people our name, and now it's also become like stigmatized because like you know what sucks? I'm gonna talk about something real quick. I like look up like Indian history and stuff like that sometimes and like oh Indian history in Americas and stuff. I can't look up Indian history in like Canada
South Asian Indian.
without like having stuff for indigenous people come up. So it's like now we've like conflated the words so hard in North
Mm.
America that like it's hard to even see our own history. So like I think I have a lot of issues with it when it comes to terms of like indigenous people versus like actual like Indians from India.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Where are South Asian Indians?
yeah. I just had a random thought after Indian talk. Are you? Yeah. We're South Asian. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like, from what I understand, the natives claim the name and prefer it. Oh, fuck that guy. Fuck Modi, right? I mean,
Also, why?
but like
Why did
again,
they
like,
get
is
a
it
name?
theirs to claim? Like, is that okay? Like, can we say that they can claim that name when it's like it doesn't? It's a term that doesn't like this maybe this sounds super stupid but like I feel like again it's like one of those things where if we did that for anyone else it'd be kind of weird but like I don't know
My
if I
take on
necessarily
it
like that.
is we probably shouldn't. The concept of even having another name for them is weird.
To me Native American makes the most sense because they're natives to America but like if you
Okay,
refer
okay,
like
but what is a white person?
what do you mean
Like, like, what do we
European
call Will?
European
Okay, so then that should just be it. We just call white people European, and then a person who's of this native land is a person of this land who is
yeah you would
Canadian
know, you
or
would
is
call like yeah
American.
you would say like Native American or like native to the North America pretty much is like what
Yeah.
that intends right is native. I'd never call a white person Native American unless they had Native American blood but like you wouldn't call like a
So like
white person.
any other name just is kind of
Yeah.
stupid.
For me, it's like if they want to, they can claim the word Indian, but like I don't know if I necessarily agree with it because it's like, then what are we? Like, if we call ourselves Indian in America, is like, are we trying to conflate ourselves with them? Are they conflating themselves with us? Like, then what? Like, now all of a sudden the name for our group of people has been given to somebody else or stolen by another group of people. And I don't know
And
if
then
I
start calling us
like.
like Indo-American and shit. That sounds stupid as fuck. I ain't calling but Indo. Fuck that.
Well, like yeah, but we are Indian. Like that is like the
I
name
know.
of our
I
people.
just hate the
Indo,
Indo-American
yeah.
Indo this stuff. Like, nah.
It's their lives. It's what they've been called, and decide they want. Who am I to tell them they are wrong? Um, it causes some confusion, but it's part of life. Our naming convention has slopped up a bit. Um, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm not saying like they have to like give it up or anything, but I just think it's kind of weird. Like, if like I don't know, I think the history behind it is kind of odd. Like to then claim that name, and then it's like okay, but like we're also Indian, so do we just say like we're South Asian
And
Indian,
also,
like
it's
Asian
also not
Indian,
like
like
that.
versus
I
like
wouldn't
American
say.
Indian? Like
I
it's
wouldn't even say
like
most of them go by Indian. I think it's like from what I know and what I've heard, it's like a small portion of people that go that
apparently
like
it's more common in America, but that's also because America like literally
probably
gives no
has.
history of like your Native American population. To be fair, like at
Yeah.
least in Canada, our Native American population is a little bit more vocal, but I don't know. Canada has like some pretty bad history with Native Americans, and we talk about it a lot. But that's because we have Native Americans still alive, like who talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
to be honest, the
Again,
U.S. killed out much larger of their indigenous population than we did, which is why I think it's still more of a conversation in Canada. Not that we didn't
again,
kill a lot, but like you
I
know,
think I think I've told this before, but I remember in elementary they had a First Native dude come to our school to speak and stuff, and like we made like these rattles and stuff out of like hide and
I
shit.
gotta ask you something.
Uh,
Are you saying First
but,
Native?
huh?
Are you saying First Native?
First Native,
First Nations?
First Native,
Yeah, it's not First
what?
Native. It's First Nations.
First Nations, Native, whatever, Nations, whatever. First Nation. Listen, too many names. Whatever. Dude came and off the bat when he introduced everything, he was like, "Okay, who here is Indian?" And where we live, there is a big South
Big
Asian
population of
population.
Indian people.
So all of us look around and we raise our hand. We're like, "Yeah, right here." And he's like, "No, no, no, no. I meant my Indian." And we're just like, "What the fuck is this dude on?" And to this day, I still think that was like a weird introduction
Yeah.
to making rattles.
Just a little. It's only an issue on the internet here in India. No one cares about Native Americans be called. Oh, I don't know if you're from India, but also, of course, it's not going to be an issue in India because you don't have Native American like you don't have Native American people in India, so there's like no confusion. But in where I am, even I've talked about being Indian, and people will be like, "Oh, you mean like Native American or like from like even you had to ask earlier, like, are you Asian Indian or like Native Indian?" And it's like that. I don't know if that should necessarily need to be a topic. I think that should just be like there's indigenous people to America, and we're
Yeah, we're
indigenous
Indian
people to
in
India.
the sense that we
We're
have
Indian.
Indian heritage.
Yeah. It's just like
You know.
I don't know. I think it's I don't know. This is like such a stupid thing that bothers me, but it also like makes it like when I look up stuff about like Indian people like in like Canada and stuff like that, like the first like five results half the time, like it, depending on the question you ask, will like come up as like Native American people in Canada or like whatever. But because they're so like I don't know, they should just look at us and assume Asian Indians.
I mean, but you could look at her and be like, "It's just
Yeah,
assume
right. Like
Asian."
people also because I'm a little bit more ambiguous with the way I look. I have been like people thought I was First Nations at points in my life just because I do look like slightly like ambiguous in my race. I guess I don't know. I've been told that a lot growing up, but like there has been people around me who've like assumed. So like you can't necessarily assume with me.
Okay, so
Yeah, for real,
he's a
I couldn't tell if you're
Latinx.
Indian. Most people can't. I don't look super. Other than my skin
He,
tone, like none of my features like are very like traditionally Indian.
he brings up Latinx, and that's a good point of just America just likes giving new names to minority groups over and over again.
Yeah,
And it's
most
just a weird. This is how this
most
happens
Latin
because you
people
give
do
them
not like the
a
term
hundred names.
Latinx. I think there's been polls done on like people who like if people like the word Latinx, and like I think it was like 80% of Latina people like or Latin people didn't like it.
Yeah, and so if these people aren't calling themselves that, where is his name coming from?
Yeah. Unless you wore a bindi.
If
Should I start wearing a bindi on stream? Is that my next move?
but you're not, you know.
Am I gonna get in trouble with that because like no one thinks I'm actually Indian?
But that's like Hindu Indian. That's different.
I'm against the Latinx bullshit. I don't think Indians should be given a new name if they don't want it. I mean, I guess you're
Yeah.
right, but like when we're talking about like what if we're talking about like referential groups and like let's say we're collecting data about like if we're talking about like people in like data collection or whatever, like do we say Indians and then South Asians or like but that doesn't refer specifically to our ethnic group. Like do we say Indians and Indians or like Indians from India or Indians from America? Like I don't know.
Do we
It just
need
kind of feels
brackets?
like again if this like happened any other way. I don't know. Maybe this is like a really stupid hill to die on. So I don't care that much, but it is just kind of annoying that like if a Native American population wanted to claim that word, I don't know if I'm like necessarily okay with it because it's like, well, it's not your title to claim.
I think it's a stupid hill to die on because I think it's like a something to a bigger issue of America or the West or Western society is like giving minority groups an identity crisis.
Yeah, but it's like yeah,
So why
like
the fuck
you
do you keep doing it after all these after decades of certain minority groups being in your lands? How are you still giving them new names and fucking up the name for them? How do
yeah.
we still not have a clear name? How do we still not know what to call a black person or a white person or I mean not white person but like a black person or a certain Asian group? It's like how come when we say Asians we're not even thought about that?
True. No
Like
one means
it's
Indian when
Asian
they say Asian.
Appreciation Month or whatever, but no one thinks about
We are the
South
most
Asians. Man.
ignored class in America because like you say Asians and people think
No,
like
I
East
always
Asian, people say Indian and people think like Native American. It's like all right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
piece the fuck out.
South Asian is the most disregarded group in Western society.
In most jobs apps, Indian were grouped in Asian. Native American could choose Native American. There's no Indian. I mean, just Indian. Yeah, but like not even just like job application. I'm talking about like data collection when you're taking like ethnographic like data collection, right? Like I found it funny the new name is Native Americans and they don't want it. I mean, in Canada, that's like usually what's used. Like Native Americans or Indigenous, I think is the most common one here.
Yeah, and if you say, "Oh, I'm Asian," some people who are East Asians be like, "Not really."
Yeah, right. There's like East Asian, like a lot of East Asian people I know now still like we're like are like oh yeah like India is part of Asia, but like that's because they grew up around a lot of Indians. But if you go to like
Yeah,
other parts of like Canada or America where there's less South Asians, people like East Asians will be like no, that's like not like you're Asian. They think like yeah anything like east of China pretty much.
yeah.
Yeah, when I say I'm Asian on Twitch, they think Korea, Singapore, China. Yeah, exactly. Because like I don't know. It's a weird topic to talk about because I feel like everyone then like I don't like the like no one likes playing the like the oppression Olympic kind of things, but also like I feel like sometimes when like Asians and specifically South Asians talk about their issues, it's always like this like oh like you guys have the model minority so it's not that bad or like you're not part of this group or that group and then yeah it's like no yeah I don't know again, even like with the Native American thing, it's like if Native American people like claim the word Indian, it's like okay, cool, but that's also not really your word to claim. Like it was given to you by white people, but also like that's that word like represents a different group of people. I don't know if it's yours to take and say like we're just gonna use that one. It's like okay, I guess sure. Um, I'm just a not my
It's
business
also
camp. Yeah, you can be. It's not your business camp. It is my business. I'm Indian.
hmm I always look at like Middle East as a weird concept too.
Yeah, because we're not like yeah. If we say Asian, everyone says east of China, and if you say Middle Eastern, everyone thinks like left of Pakistan. And so it's like we're like dead center of those two, and no one can, like it's like okay.
Yeah,
That's why I said Indian subcontinent. Yeah, I've heard that one for sure. But considering we're like what the second highest population in the world,
hmm
it's kind of weird that we're like what like so heavily like
there is 1 billion people and you don't know where to categorize them.
yeah we just like I don't know feels kind of weird.
1/7 of the world population, which just like we don't know what they are.
The best person to hear about problem marginalized people is upper middle class white women. True, absolutely. Are you calling me upper middle class white women? Are you referring to me? I really hope you're not. I hope that wasn't actually a jab at me. I'm not white.
Parts of those are true, but
Um, middle class to upper middle class?
woman.
Okay. Okay. Well, oh yeah, woman.
God.
Okay. Not referring to you just being funny. True. Honestly, I was talking about this though. I don't want to say it on stream, but I'm gonna sound like one of those like white haters. I don't hate white people, but I will say white women in political spheres are some of the most annoying people to talk to about like minority class issues. I'm sorry. I dislike it. I dislike it. Because I think like they will make a bigger deal out of things that like actual minority people just don't care about half the time.
Mm.
Like sometimes I feel like it's people who aren't part of a minority group or who aren't affected by issues are the
But
ones who are
that's
like the
what.
loudest voices on things, and I'm like,
But
dude, no one cares about like this is not the issue to focus on. I don't even fucking care about this. Why are we like harping
that's
on
what
this? Who
makes them
cares?
so such a weird group because it's like they're women, which yes, women have a harder time than men, and there are issues that we still haven't resolved. But then they're also white, and whiteness is like a superpower in Western society. That like yeah, you could probably be in some minority groups, but I feel like when some white women talk about issues or anything, they forget they're white as well.
Yeah, I kind of
And
get that vibe.
that's not to like take away from any of their struggles or anything, but it's not
It's like you
like
gotta remember that you're
you
also
also
white while a woman, and it's
yeah.
like
So
honestly,
you
sometimes
also gotta remember that it's not as bad for you as it is for a woman of a different race.
yeah,
And that's just kind of the facts of how this society works.
I dislike it. But on the other hand, comedy content wise, is a gift. True, true.
That's why I say Amy
Okay,
Schumer doesn't work because he
fine.
ain't got
I don't
shit
know
to
if I want
say.
to say
He
this
just
on
steals
stream
shit.
because it's about something that's happening right now. Actually, no, because I'm dropping that class. Okay, so I'm in a class right now. That I'm gonna drop because I just don't have space for it in my timetable. But it's an Indigenous Studies class, and like we were all just like having good discussions like in the first class, and I kind of want to stay in that class just because I really think it's funny the way she talks. Um, but like in my first like small group discussion with like a group of people, all of us were like giving like good points, and this girl was just the so she was so annoying. And it was like the only white girl in class. And I was like sitting there in my head, I was like, oh God, I want to go off on you because it just sounds like sometimes it feels like the really white savior thing where like she was like harping on like how bad white people are. She was laughing at all the jokes about white people, like to an extent that I was like, I'm uncomfortable.
Mm.
Because it sometimes feels like they're doing it to like it almost feels like a virtue signal, I want to say, because it's like, oh, I'm more virtuous than other white people because I hate them more. I don't know. That's what it comes off to me as like like a minority person when like sometimes white people talk about minority issues in a way that's like so degrading to like white people or like even just like harping on it too much. It just comes off very virtue signally like, oh, look how virtuous I am, look how much I care about the minorities. Like that's what it feels like. So it's interesting. I think people focus on race more than the actual problem. I'm not big on racializing concepts when there are better descriptions of phenomena. Oof, this. Oh my god, I want to watch this on. Okay, I watched clips of it. I haven't watched the video yet, but I'm so excited to watch it because Hassan's such a stupid moron. White people are people who are no better off than others. It's environment and upbringing, that's it. No, I disagree
Mm-mm.
with that. I don't know if any of you guys are white. I don't know how many of you guys are white, but that's absolutely not true. If you
I'm
don't think that being white comes with some level of systemic advantage, or that your environment is sometimes determined by like the fact that you have white lineage, you're just wrong. You might say that environment plays a bigger factor, and I think environment probably does, but your environment can be racially determined. Like if you have a family that's like, from slavery, you're more likely to like than white people to be poor just because like your family had a worse starting off point, so you're more likely to end up in bad neighborhoods. You're more likely to end up in poor neighborhoods. So you had less of a chance from the beginning because your family inherently started off from a different
but
point.
it's not even that. It's because like I'm a minority group. I'm Indian, but I'm also grew up middle class, right?
Yeah,
Middle class doesn't mean shit to still being a minority. When you walk around in certain places
no one knows you're middle
that
class. They just know you're brown.
yeah, and one thing that white people will never understand is just that existence of being a minority group.
Hmm.
You feel it when you're around certain people,
Hmm.
right? Like we have cities around us that aren't as big in different minority groups as like the city we live in, and whenever I go into those cities, you can feel like your presence. You can
Mm-hmm.
feel how people look at you and how people
Yeah,
are,
I
are,
remember
are
the first time I was in the States and I had that happen. Like one of the first times I went down to Seattle, and I was like, even just like me, it was me, my mom, and my aunt, and my aunt's like significantly darker skinned. My mom looks more Indian than I do. So it was like very like I think if I walk around like people, I'm racially ambiguous. I don't look white any, but like people don't know how to categorize me, so I feel like a little bit less on my own. But like being with my mom and aunt and walking down in the States for the first time, I remember feeling like the looks from like people around us of like three brown women walking around. It felt really really weird, and even when I was
yeah,
younger, like I still felt it.
yeah.
I've never had advantage because of my race. I do have an advantage over someone who grew up in a high crime area, but no advantage over someone who grew up upper middle class.
But see, but you gotta see, it's not.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd necessarily agree
It's
with that.
perspective and how you look at it. Because you can look at it as like if you were in a race with people, like a foot race with people, right? And 1, 2, 3, go. Everybody goes, and you start running, and all those people start running, but they have their shoelaces tied. You're not gonna be like, oh, I was advantaged because you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any head start or this or that or that. But if these people have something that's bringing them back, yeah, you might not have an advantage, but there is a difference between you and them now.
That's how social division works. Most people, yeah, Cloud, I'll let you in like 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes and we'll let you in for like a 5 minute discussion because I would like to hear you. Because I think me and Rams like talking to you last time. Rams, are you good with him coming in for a minute?
Sure.
Cool. We'll switch into the other Discord in a second. That's how social division works. People think an issue exists when they don't. People look down on me due to my race. Are they really? How much of it is in your head? No, I completely because okay. We know that there's racist people who exist. Like that, I think that's undeniable, right? There's like there is like definitely like people who are just outright racist, and that's clear. But then we also have systems that like if you want to deny it, you can. But like we know that these systems were based like on from a time when racism was still rampant and that it was enforced through our systems, and I don't know if that ever completely died off, right? So we can talk about like that stuff, how like these things are perpetuated. And some again, like I'm talking about like generational stuff, like you might have like I don't know what class you are, it doesn't matter. But like for me it's like disproportionately black people usually have like there's more poor black people like strictly because the starting off point for them like 60 70 80 years ago was worse than like a white person 60 70 80 years ago because of their race and not just because of like they might be poor, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's making sense.
No, you also got like just even like the ability to express yourself, right? If you're what quote unquote is looked at as like the default of like America or was society of being like white, Christian, this, blah blah blah. You can go ahead and express yourself, and no one's gonna look at you different. But
Mm-hmm.
once you change one of those things, and they're not what uh 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 is like taught to be the norm, right? It's not looked at as the same, right? Once you practice a different religion, it's gonna be looked at differently.
Mm-hmm.
With your different skin color, you come from a different culture. When you practice your culture, it's looked at different. And like, I don't ever blame white people when they don't understand that, but understand you will never understand that 100% because you'll never feel that in America
Yeah.
or in with a
And you might never
society.
even see it because like if you're not like a marginalized group, I don't think you'll ever like you might not see like these things and how they perpetuate or how they exist. Like but if you're like a if I'll say if you're like a black or brown person driving a nice car in a bad neighborhood, like 9 out of 10 times you're probably going to get stopped by police because it's just like they'll inherently like I think like sometimes again these biases exist in our mind that like this person
Yeah,
can't live here and have like that, you know what I mean? White people in the US are scared to death to be racist for the most part. You're fucking wrong, dude. I'm sorry. I you're absolutely wrong, and it might not be like outwardly racist, like you're not going to go around people calling people slurs or anything, but like the inherent biases that people might have or like beliefs about people, there is absolutely people who are like racist either unknowingly or knowingly and just like not blatant about it. Yeah, brazenly, there are very few who are brazenly racist, but like that might be more rare, but like the actual amount of like racist people I think like is higher than you would think. Even in Canada where we are, okay? I have family who are north like live in north of like my province. When we go up there, it's a significantly different like vibe. Like there's definitely like people who hold these biases because it's a like very white town. And when my family like cuz we have half cousins and stuff up there. So like they're like half white, half brown, and so we go up to visit them, and it was a different vibe going up there because people have biases, have like these things in their head, and it's not like this brazen racist like I think you're like what less of a human than me, but it's like these notions we hold of people is like fuck, I'm so tired, but like I'm trying to explain. I hope that it's making sense. Reality versus common media narratives meant to divide people. I'm not saying racism is gone; it's always there, but what's actually there, what's exact? I think there is probably some exaggeration. Absolutely, I'd agree with you there. I just don't know if I'd agree that like people in the U.S. are scared to death to be racist for the most part. I disagree with that.
No,
You guys watch
I
too
think
much.
no.
No,
This is from
this is
some
on life
experiences too.
experience,
We're,
bro.
I don't know if you caught up. We're from minority groups too.
Yeah. Like this isn't just like something we're like talking about because like oh media tells us that racism is bad. No, like we've all experienced like my family grew up here like from the 60s to now and it's like there's still shit that happens. Like we know. Like this isn't just like social media. This is like stuff that we know we live. I also like someone who wants to work in criminal justice. That's what my degree's in. I know what the statistics are like and I know why they exist. I like learn a lot about sociology. And again, it's not like this like outwardly racist like behavior towards us, right? Like I'm not getting called like racial slurs like every other day. But there's definitely things in my life where I'm like,
But you still feel it.
yeah, you still feel
You
it.
still notice it, right?
When like
It's like
people of your skin color can't
if
make
you
it a
ever
powerful.
watched the new Invisible Man movie, it feels like that. Where it's like you're trying to tell people that there's something going on, and they can't see it, so they don't believe it, but like it's still going on.
Yeah.
That only makes sense if you watch that movie. If you haven't watched that movie, you won't understand it. But
Yeah. But
yeah.
like it's hard to explain because I don't think it's something that's ever explainable, but like and this might sound really stupid to someone who doesn't get it, but like when you see no people
We
of your
should
skin.
bring him into.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's switch to the other Discord.
Yeah, because I feel like we just
We'll
make.
go into the moderator one because then no one else can get it even if they jump in. Stream room confirm because I think only knights and I think Cloward should be able to get into this one. I'm pretty sure. Or Cloward, if you can join one of the other, I can drag you in. Yeah, I'll drag you in. There we go. Move to, oops, stream room. There we go. Sorry, I just want to finish the point that I was making before we go off. But when you see no people of like in positions of power around you of your skin tone, it does like you do notice it. Like these things happen, right? And like I even had my mom's like recently become like gained a position of power in the education system. Like she's a principal and stuff, and like she's had multiple like younger brown women come to her and say like it's so nice to see someone who looks like me in this position because I don't think they've ever had that experience until they saw my mom or like they've just never worked at a school that had like a because it's just not as common because I think like a lot of times we're not given the same opportunities or like not considered for the same opportunities.
And it's a crazy thing because from where we're from, there is a big Indian population and South Asian population, and like, even when we grew up, I mean, I don't know about used to be, but like the amount of Indian teachers or South Asian teachers I had throughout high school and elementary, probably count on one hand. Like there wasn't many, right? And it was always weird to see, like, oh, all these kids are South Asian.
Yeah, like when we're
But
from
the
a place that's
teachers,
like very like heavily like a minority group of people that like are in just our like specific area, and you still don't see them in those positions, it seems like you do notice things like that, right? Feel it, I can listen to others and feel any sort of way, but what is actually happening? No. Okay, I don't know how to explain that. Like,
well, I wasn't to like demonize like the white teachers. Most of them, majority of them, chill as fuck. But yeah.
yeah, I think it's just like one of those things that like, fuck, maybe you just need to like. I think it's something that you should look
It's
into
one of
more.
those
And,
like
like,
you'll never know until you're out there. Like,
yeah,
I
it's a hard
feel
experience to
again, a
explain.
white person won't understand that in Western society. Go somewhere else in the world, maybe, right?
But okay,
But
even
when
like
you're
looking at
not
like
the majority, then yeah.
look at implicit things. Like when we talk about indigenous populations in Canada, there's a reason that they're so heavily incarcerated. And it's not just because like they commit more crime. There's a lot of reasons that indigenous people are more heavily incarcerated. That actually is a systemically racist problem. Like oh wait, what? Your mic's not picking up? Wait, I'm so confused. Hold on. You should be able
You
to.
should.
Are you talking? If you're saying anything, we can't hear you
Because
even
we
in the
can't hear you on
Discord.
Discord.
Okay, you might need to fix your mic. Okay, let's move into the Nights chat and see if that works, because it might just be that chat that... Move into the Nights chat if you can. Hello? Otherwise, it might be something, because you've talked in this chat before. I still cannot hear you. You might want to reset your mic or something. Or trouble... Okay, no worries. Just let us know when you're in, when it's working. Yeah, but when we talk about like even statistics on like crime and stuff around minority groups, it's not because they like I mean, they might commit more crime. There is some disproportionate levels of crime within certain communities, but the reason that that crime exists isn't necessarily inherent to the group of people, but because of the way the system's set up against them, right? So when we talk about indigenous populations, well, when we keep them like forced onto reserves and stuff like that, it's like the reserve setting that we have them on and the way we like police the reserves creates like an unhealthy amount of over policing, and that's why like these people are so overrepresented, and we don't give them any like support systems to like actually like better their situations. We keep them in destructive situations so that they can continue to commit more crime, and then they get sent off and
there you go. We can hear you.
incarcerated, right? So like
Okay,
it's like a
that.
circular issue
You good?
there. Anyway, go ahead, Cloward, if you want to jump in here.
Yeah. No, it's just something. I don't know if you guys saw the Tim Pool versus Daryl Davis IRL podcast.
I don't think I've seen that one, no.
It kind of went nowhere. It just kind of collapsed in on itself.
Okay.
Because they're just arguing from two completely different stances, and basically both sides end up just calling each other racist, and it just kind of collapsed.
I don't know who these people are. Are they?
Daryl Davis is he's a black guy who went and got several people in the Klan to quit the Klan.
Oh, yes, I know
Oh,
him. Okay, yeah. I knew that name. I couldn't remember where from.
Yeah, very amazing guy.
I've heard about that.
De-radicalized people, and like him and Tim Pool stuff had a talk, and it utterly collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were just talking past each other and unable to communicate. And I said, like, I'm more on the fixing society through
Discussion.
dealing with class issues.
Like,
Oh.
But the point I was getting to earlier is that like we've in our language gendered and racialized a lot of concepts, such as like one in film is the male gaze, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that doesn't need to be gendered. You can literally call it the sexualized gaze, because you can sexualize any person on screen you feel like,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have a term that describes both phenomena without getting weird about it.
Do you think that there's a reason that we like consider like we use these terms in a certain way though? Like even something
No,
like
I
the male
understand.
gaze.
So I was going to pitch what I saw as just a more neutral version here, which is like I've never seen anyone use it. It occurred to me one day. I was like, it's majority bias.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally everywhere in society, where if you're right-handed, society's right-hand biased. 90% of the population uses the right hand.
Yeah.
There's a very strong majority bias for it.
Yeah.
The heights of the vehicles are built around the average height of a male.
Yeah.
So that because men are typically taller than women, if it fits around the height of a man, women can fit in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's once again determined by majority bias. And so rather than doing all the weird stuff with privilege, I'm like, geez, if you go to China, you're going to get a lot of majority privilege over there. If you go to India, it's the same thing. It's now you have a globally ubiquitous, useful term to describe the same phenomena we're seeing, and that the further you are away from the quote unquote norm or center, the harder it is for you. If you're left-handed, it just sucks.
I am going to push back on this idea
discrimination.
a little bit, because I think the reason that we have like gendered or racialized terms is because the places they come out. We call it the male gaze because it came out of like the way that men wrote women in media, right? Like this is like it was meant by women or by men for men, right? Like this is not how women write other women or like portray other women. It was because it's like it was from a male perspective to show women in a way that was enticing to men.
It starts getting weird that you have the implication that women do not sexualize men, and it cannot happen. You just end up with weird, strange, contradictory arguments.
Hold on, no, but no one's saying that women don't sexualize men. But do you think that there's the same level of sexualization of men in media or on screen as there is of women, and for as long as it has been?
to me, the level doesn't matter. I said I can understand the origin of the term, and I would think that it would eventually gravitate to we have examples of both cleanly and clearly, and so what the amount of it or level of it, you can say that men more predominantly use sexualized cameras, sure, but I mean, just you might as well just use a term that is useful
Hold
for
on,
both.
But
I'm
if you're
stupid.
hold
Are we
on,
talking about the male gaze in relation
Um,
to like women on screen or men on screen?
women on screen.
Yeah. The male gaze is when a camera is focusing on woman in a sexualized way.
But people use male gaze for a lot of things. Because even like when we talk about, because this is a huge thing with Marvel movies and the superheroes, of like people are like, oh, Thor and all this. Those people are created within the male gaze of what men think women like or what. So male gaze is used for more than just like women and stuff. But
That's
I
true
get what
too.
you're saying.
Well, we're talking about when it's being sexualized. We're not
Yeah.
talking about idealized.
Yeah.
Thor is idealized. He's not been super sexualized. But when you have like a female director there sitting there taking male guys and just all shirtless and just
Magic making them.
like you have
Okay.
examples clearly both, and it's just like
I'm gonna.
I would just remove it and just go, this is what it is.
But
It's
hold on,
the
if
whole
we're
point of it is that the content's being sexualized.
the point of some terms though is to focus on a specific issue. So when we talk about the male gaze, it was a specific issue brought forward by women about like how they are perceived by men on like how they're portrayed in media by men on screen and how it's made for other men, right? So this was like a specific issue. We use specific terms in order to portray a specific issue because we want to show like, hey, this is something that we've noticed that we think is a problem, and so this is the title we give to it to specifically focus on this issue. It's like when we talk.
I keep going there. Like you can like even with the word I'm giving, you can still make the same identical argument. You just
You
get rid of some
can,
of
but
the-
like when we're focused, if you say just like the sexualization of people on screen, well, now we're talking about everyone. But like when we,
again, you can say I have a trouble with the sexualization of women. Bam.
yeah, but then why is it so different to say like we have an issue with like the male gaze or like the male portrayal of women on
Well,
screen?
it's just weird because I was watching Lindsay Ellis lay out arguments for this years back, and she's just going, there is no such thing as the female gaze. It just does not exist. Because academically, I'm like, no, the female gaze exists.
No, that exists. If you're gonna say the male
Yeah,
gaze, the
I'll
female
say
gaze
it. I'll hold
Yeah.
that the female gaze exists. Except I just don't think Veldre, and I'll like disagree with you hardcore. Is I don't think it's as prominent in our media as it is the other way around. There's like less female
Do we
directors,
wait
less
until
female
it becomes
producers.
as
Like,
prominent? Is that the standard, or would we just go?
if
you know
there's
what?
one that's highly disproportionately overrepresented, I would say that that's probably a bigger issue to address. Like the four
'Cause
women
with
directors that
the-
like maybe have like bad shots of men, what level of something that needs to be a problem for it to be addressed? Like we see that the male gaze, like this is like a pretty broad issue throughout
Oh,
all of
and-
media. When
'Cause the
like
problem with
that's
the
why
male
we're
gaze
focusing
is
on the
when you
issue.
have
Like
characters, like,
when every single movie that I watch is like especially growing up, like was it like the sexualization of women, like it had to be like sexy, like they had to be like even okay, let's talk about comedy movies. Okay, this is a really good one. When you have Adam Sandler movies where every or Adam Sandler type movies where like the guy can be like a mediocre average dude who's maybe like funny at the most and has like no other redeeming qualities, but the female role in that movie is like an absolute stunner model, like beautiful woman. Like, come on. Like, that's a pretty, common phenomenon throughout
if you take,
media.
a character like Wonder Woman, right? It's like, oh, you have this character that's supposed to represent, like, strength and hope and all this stuff for young girls and all that, but you putting the male gaze on her, that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Or like again, you wouldn't know this. I've talked about it previously. I do comics. I'm not a fan of the male gaze or the female gaze. I just want to tell a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just something that just is, and I'm just like, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, which is fine, but all we're talking about is like just the prevalence of it in our media. And like even I think the big one, sorry, just to make an example out of it, with the new Wonder Woman movies, like the two different directors, people noticed a significant difference in how like Wonder Woman was portrayed in each movie, and like it was very explicit. Like where the first movie, like even though like the outfit was like short skirt and stuff like that, the outfit felt very like didn't feel demeaning. Whereas like I think it was the second movie where like the outfit was like a little bit more like felt sexy.
I believe the movies were directed by Cecil. Maybe you're talking about Justice League.
Maybe I'm thinking about Justice League, but there was
Or
I know
maybe
there,
Superman, because I think
I can look at I
both
can try to
movies
look up
were
like
directed by
different
Patty
outfits.
Yeah,
but like
both
I remember my mom even pointing it out when she watched them. Given the freedom for people to do as they will enter markets and professions they excel at. I can say that men are underrepresented when it comes to nurse positions, but no one will care. I mean, yeah, but why are men underrepresented in nurse positions? It's because they're demonized for being feminine. Like, you have to go to the root of the issue. You can't just say, like, oh, no one cares that men are underrepresented in nurse positions. Why? It's because they don't want to go into those. Whereas, like, women are actively, like, up until recently, I'll say, more
I don't
pushed
know
out
about
of, like,
I
will.
Yeah.
We can fight about that, but
This is something where I just dig into data because there's a lot of claims that that are made and just assumed to be true without having been thoroughly vetted. And like the more I explore issues, the more I find out that a lot of common sense stuff really is false.
like,
It depends
okay,
on
do you
where
want to speak?
you're at. Because like I know dudes who go to be like nurses and stuff, and they're like, looked at like you're being
Yeah.
a nurse or whatever. Like it's like if you ever seen Meet the Fockers, like the movie, not the YG song. I know we talked about the YG song, but like the actual movie, and like that comes from real life. Like they like people like males who become nurses will get that reaction.
I just have to look at it to see. Like I'd have to
I
look
mean,
through
you
the
could
data
talk
to
about
be sure.
data, but I think we can also just talk about regular social norms and like kind of see that pretty obviously is like when men do
Well, I
go
mean,
into like
I
more
think
feminine
that
positions that
other
they are
factors
looked
may
down
come
on.
in. The other factors may come into play, like
Oh, they do.
There's probably
There
other
are more
factors, but
women
can
that
we
go
like?
for the nursing role and everything, which will play a factor in all that. But
I think there's
I
something
mean,
to say for like data and like all these statistics and stuff, but I think there's also like we can kind of like look at like social phenomena and like pretty easily describe like okay, there might be other things playing into this, but I don't know
well,
if
I
it's
mean,
like
I would
just
like
that.
part of the data would just be looking at just the number one, just interviewing a whole bunch of people and their thoughts on it, and
Yeah,
that's data too.
but this was
You
like
can get
I
very
don't know.
straightforward answers.
I don't know if you saw the video, but there was like a couple of weeks ago, it went really viral of like they asked a bunch of black women, would you rather find out your boyfriend's bisexual or cheating? And like, I think like 50 to 70% of the women were like rather him cheat than be bisexual. And it was like this whole thing. And like, it was like, yeah, because we like look down on men for being like bi because we think like men being with other men is like a really like negative thing, especially within like minority communities tend to look at it even worse. Right? Like, so we can like kind of look at social phenomena like
I
that and
mean,
like just be like,
cheating's also very, very, very common. It is shocking how common it is.
I agree, but what I'm saying is like the fact that like people would rather their partner cheat than find out they're just bisexual.
like one thing has
To talk about like, because like cheating, I think
a
we would
direct
all agree
thing to your
here.
relationship versus something else is just
Well, it
this is
also
something you gotta talk about.
I mean, it does weird things to your mind there, because like some people there, I guess I guess like I would have to sit there and look through stuff, because theoretically, you just admitted that uh, you're not you could be sleeping with literally anybody, male or female. It's like
Well, no, you're not admitting that. You're admitting that you have
Like,
attractions.
yeah,
I know,
both
and
genders.
like your
But,
your partner there,
listen, I could say I could be in a relationship and be like, I'm straight, and they're like, oh, so you're thought about having sex with other women?
yeah,
Versus
I know,
I'm bisexual. Oh,
This,
both
this is
men and it's it's the same
yeah.
thing.
Well, this is like for more like controlling people and controlling relationships. There, we're like, well, I'm a woman, I just have to worry about other women. It's like, well, I'm bi. It's like, crap. Now he's at this work.
That's a whole other problem. That's a
I
whole
know.
other
you
problem.
could say that, but I'm bisexual and I've been quite a loyal person in the past. So like, I hate that stereotype that like.
But there's a
I know,
difference of starting a relationship with someone that you know is bisexual, and then finding out later they're bisexual. I will say there is a slight difference. I don't think it's like a major factor, but there is.
But would you
like,
rather find out they're bi or cheating? Like to even conflate these two as
cheating
like
for
what?
sure, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, yeah, both feels like lies. But I was gonna say there that like by and far, like I think the majority of people who are asked never dated a bi person, so they don't have a framework to work from.
Yeah, that's probably true, and I would agree with that.
That just says that off the bat, like they're like, oh, being bi is worse than cheating.
Yeah,
Which isn't a great thing.
like I think we can just agree that like I think between the three of us we'd all agree that like cheating is probably worse than being bi, but like to a lot of people like these are like on the same level of badness, and it's because like one is seeing as like very very negative, and I think it's like the same thing with like when we talk about like the men's like if we want to talk about the men in nursing issue is like it's because it's seen as like really negative for men to be in like feminine positions.
Yeah.
Right.
But, it's like I don't know what the future of America holds, because I just said like. If I remember correctly, the cheating rate was something like 40%. It's ridiculous.
But I also saw that study, and I think I know which one you're referring to, and it was talking about like, I don't think it was talking about all couples. It was talking specifically about like, Oh God, I can't even remember. I'd have to look up the study, but I know that it wasn't talking about like in general couples. I think it was talking about like a specific group of like.
There's multiple studies, and it just is ugly. It is
Okay,
just ugly. I'm
yeah,
like, I'm a very loyal person, and that
yeah.
there is
I mean, the
heart
fact that cheating
wrenching.
rates are as high as they are is terrible. Like, I think that's like something I would agree with. I think like cheating rates like should. I mean, theoretically be at zero. However, I think like for it to be as high as like even 30 or 40% is like crazy to me.
Oh yeah, it's just like maybe a topic for another day. But I said like I consider basically this country to be a pseudo polygamous society, with just the train wreck that it is.
Minority
We
groups.
haven't legalized polygamy, but we're we're not far from.
Yeah. But I'd honestly be fine with that if people knew how to live in. I think most people can handle polyamorous relationships. But if you're someone who can, I don't think I necessarily have a problem with it because it's like, hey,
Well,
if that's a
I
social
don't think
contract
I
you
don't
want to.
think that I don't think that's what's gonna solve it because it's not that
no,
people
I
want
mean,
multiple
making it a polygamous
partners.
society would cause serious problems to our society at a societal level.
I don't think
Why do you
society
think?
would go
Wait,
that way
I
because
would like
I
to
don't
ask.
think most people. I don't think most people want multiple partners and stuff like
Hold
that.
on, hold
Like,
on, hold on, hold on. I want to ask like two different questions. One, I okay, so I just want to say to Rams, I think that like people having like I don't think most people can handle polyamorous relationship. I'm talking about people who could handle polyamorous relationship and are happy with them, and like want because I don't think I would ever be happy in a
most people
polyamorous.
would be like. I think more so the problem is that we romanticize marriage and staying with the one person your entire life too much. Like
That's
when people
probably
cheat,
true.
it's like a lot of times it's like a relationship that's gone on for years and it's fizzled out, but you're in too deep. You're married, you have kids, so you're not gonna end it, but you want something else too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we have I think 96 polygamous society countries in the world. There's still quite a few polygamous countries.
yeah,
Mm.
But I was going to say that specifically, like the first part you say, if polygamy does become normalized, so Mark Zuckerberg now has 12 wives, Jeff Bezos has 8, Trump has 30, Biden has 22. Who knows? Um, it just is. How does divorce work?
Why wouldn't you just have a separate contract for the person that you're married to?
Well, right now here, it in theory you can split 50-50
Yeah,
between if people are married. But if
yeah,
they got like if a guy's got 2, 3, 4 wives and he's got one wife with kids and they got one house and the fourth wife wants to leave, what does she take? What does she get? You can't
yeah. I
just
guess you'd
take
have to
away the
like,
house now.
yeah, you'd have to make
Well, you
new.
would divide up what that person with those two individuals own together and what that
And it's
like
gonna be an utter nightmare. It
I
starts
mean, I
breaking
agree. I
down.
think like the legality part would be like really hard to figure out. But I would
Well,
like, do you think
that'd be
there's
the
like a,
first problem. The
yeah? Do you
second
But
think
then,
there's
problem,
like,
I mean that those are things that you can solve with like prenups and this and that. Like a lot, if you
oh
would
yeah,
go down
prenuptial
that route,
agreements would probably help
a
that.
lot of things would change along with it. We won't
well,
just say, oh, we're still doing a 50-50 split after divorce, right?
yeah, that would go out the window because it would be literally
Yeah.
impossible.
Give me one
Um,
second. I'm gonna go through the comments here
Which I mean, I
quickly.
think that should just
well,
go out
to
the
me,
window
there,
regardless.
I view polygamy as the ultimate destruction of feminism.
Give me.
If it's ever legalized again.
Can you give me 1 second to go through the comments quickly?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So Valdrain said, "My sexuality is a spectrum. Cultural norms would not allow for someone who is straight to think they might just be a little bi-curious or bisexual." Yeah, that's probably true. I think that's why more. I honestly think more people are gonna become bi as like time goes on because I think like more people are like just open to like having their sexuality just be like a little bit more fluid than it used to be. People can handle them. It depends on if you're able to change your views. People are stuck in a bit. No, I think like human nature somewhat calls for like monogamy in most people. Like I don't know if it's necessarily like a views thing. I think a lot of people just like have that inherent jealousy that like I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. If like you don't want to have like a polyamorous relationship, I don't think that's necessarily like just because your views are a certain way. In a gay community who thinks they might be bisexual, true. Gay community doesn't like bi people. I will tell you that from first-hand experience. Polygamy is ever people are in relationships with multiple people. It's just hard for people to take their partners with, in that their partner is with another person.
For
Wait,
communities
what?
to put
I
their layers
want
together,
explanation on that.
there's a lot of division between the LGBTQ, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like a whole stream on like the issues in the LGBTQ because like, oh god, is it terrible. So people do it behind closed doors. That's why some people are unashamed when caught cheating and such. I mean, no, the difference between like polyamory and like cheating is the fact that you have like a contract, like a social contract with like the person you're with that like X thing is okay or X thing isn't okay. Whereas like cheating is like you've just completely broken the social contract that like between you and another person that says like I am like committed to you. I'm only gonna be like intimate, like physically and so emotionally with you. And now you've gone and done it with someone else, which is why even like we talk about emotional cheating is like pretty bad because like a lot of people feel like you owed them that emotional exclusivity, and that was like what the like contract of your kind of relationship was socially, and yet you went and had that emotional exclusivity with like shared it with somebody else, and now it feels like I've been like betrayed, right? Like that, like yeah. Anyway, they're interested in polygamy in the first place. How would it destroy feminism? Oh yeah, okay. Let's go into that now because I've gotten through most of these comments so far. So we'll go back into.
Yeah, no, I just because there's something was looking into last year, and I was like, oh, good lordy, because I just started with the courts there, and it's like, I started looking up polygamous society. It's like 96% of them there are, guys with multiple wives. It's almost never the other way around. There's like one or two places on Earth that have women with multiple guys. And one of the few places on Earth it is because the land they're living on is so small that they can't parcel it out, and so it's just a extreme conditions from where they live, and so like I said, like you just mix this with judges having polygamy, all of the upper class, all of Hollywood having multiple wives here. You have the court system where divorce, like I don't know, to me it is just the return to the patriarchy.
But that might just be because of that's how culturally they work over there.
Yeah,
You don't know how that's gonna.
I don't like because if we just normalize it here,
I'm looking at like ancient Greece and like I'm looking at other
yeah, but
examples.
these are
Like,
ancient
I see a
times
whole
with
bag of
like
problems coming in.
I mean, that's
that, like-
sure, but like these are also completely different societies. Like if we start to like normalize polygamy now, who's to say that like women wouldn't have like multiple like either
Well,
like females or males in their lives?
Also, if we did
That's
and it
the
was
theory,
more
but
that
where
males
does it
had,
exist?
but if even if we normalize it here and it was to so happened to be that males have more partners than females, I don't see how that's
Well,
anti-feminist.
like,
Yeah,
like
how
when you look at old
I
world, when you look at old world problems, man, like I just like, um,
I think you gotta
already
explain that more.
the species is 50% male, 50% female.
Yeah.
If all the women are married to just a handful of guys, that causes problems.
Oh, this is the 80-10. Is this the 80-10 argument that you're making here? That like 80%
No,
of the women
we're
will
talking
go for
about
the
if
top
polygamy
10%.
becomes normalized. That
Yeah,
it
but
just
what
is
you're
legal on the
you're
books that
basing
you
it
can
off
have
of like an 80.
unlimited numbers of wives.
Okay, but what you're basing it off of like an 80-10 rule that says like, you know, 80%.
I'm not even using 80-10. It doesn't even have to be that extreme.
It doesn't have to be, but like
That's
I'm
an
talking about
example.
the. Okay, hold on.
If every guy
Let me
at the top
explain this.
has
Give me a
4
second.
wives or 3 wives, if let's say every guy at the top has 2 wives, that divides the female population in half.
Yeah. But
Like,
what if
that's
then
already a
like what if
problem.
what if women have like 3 husbands in return?
Well, unfortunately, like I said, like I looked into it, I found one example on Earth where that exists.
But that's not because
Also, hold
don't
on.
know.
Like, to me,
would
there,
like-
I think it just over time and within like 30, 50 years will lead to just a massive load of problems. I should just make a video on it, just detailing
But I just want to like.
the logic train, and
if
just
it was
older
like,
examples.
if it was like, oh, only men can have other partners, that yeah,
Yeah.
off the bat. But if women have the choice to have multiple partners
the
or not,
even in
and
the
they
countries,
choose not to, like then that's that. That's just
Yeah.
life.
well, I mean, even in the countries where women are allowed to have multiple husbands, which there are many,
If they choose
men
not to,
don't
that's that.
do it. I don't know what it is.
That's not
but men just
anti-feminist
don't do
because the feminist part is them having the choice to do that, having
Yeah.
the same choice that a man has. If they choose otherwise, if they choose whatever the man doesn't choose, that's on them. No one's telling them what to do or not, and that's.
Well, I know. Like, we're
Also,
talking
I
from a
want to
societal
point out that
level.
most of the polyamorous like couples that I know right now is like they'll usually both have multiple partners. Like people either in media or like even people that I've like met through the LGBT community who are like polyamorous. It's not like usually like where like the boyfriend has like 6 different like girlfriends. It's usually like where both of them like are having like fun like either relationships or like just sexual hookups on the side, and it's like not
They legit just have side
yeah,
hoes.
it's literally just like a
Right.
bunch of side hoes. Like I don't know
Right.
how like
Well, I
I
mean-
like to act as if like our time right now is comparable to any other time in history. I think is like the false dichotomy that you're making.
Well, that's why I'm using countries that are currently existing that we have a lot of polygamy in the world that already exists. And I'm like, I just look at
one-
the larger picture, going, we are still human. We're not that different.
If you're comparing to other like first world countries, a lot of these countries still have like
I'll provide you a list later. Like Wikipedia has the full list of
You can,
countries and everything.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, we can say like if it's a first world country like anywhere in like Europe or like any other like developed country, most of these have like pretty like monogamous societies, and like polyamory is like still probably like not that common. And if you're talking about any other society, well, these societies aren't like might not be as
well,
progressive
this,
as
this
like
is
our
like we're
society, and
special. We're
therefore like women
different.
aren't looked at in the same way when it comes to polyamorous
Yeah,
relationships, right?
this is the we're special. We're just so fundamentally different. I'm like, I don't know. When I see
I'm
this
not
many
saying we're
examples,
like that, but I'm
and
saying like
it all points in one direction, I'm like, I don't know. Because
I mean,
like
you
to me,
could say
there,
that,
if
but
you like
again,
if you're
like
polygamist and you're doing your own thing, I don't care if it's like
I mean,
a
like
few guys here there. But I say if it ever becomes a societal norm, that everybody's got to get on it.
I don't think everyone should have to
I
get
see
on
the
it. And
baggage coming with it.
to be
we
fair, I
we
don't
can't
think you're
say
ever
for
going to get to a
sure or
point.
not that problems will arise or not. They might arise, but I don't think you'll do anything with like female rights or anything like that, right?
I also want to say I think even if it was
Uh,
normalized in society for have like polyamorous relationships, I don't think it would be that common. I think most people can't handle it, and most people would realize that, and like most people are like fundamentally pretty monogamous as human beings.
I'm far more black pilled. I'm far more black pilled because I just being up the dating market. I'd go through a bunch of stuff and then I'd have to like really lay it out, probably like 8 videos just to
Also, monogamy
really lay out
would
a very likely path it would end up, and it'd just be just an uglier world to live in for both men and women. It'd just be bad for everybody, unless you were at the top.
Yeah.
I don't think
At
it
the
would
top, you're
change.
doing good.
I don't think it would change much more than what is going on right now. I think there will still be cheating a lot, but like
Well, I view it as much more like traditional. When you talk to the patriarch, I'm talking like the patriarch on steroids, where you just have um, basically 10-20% of the men with most of the wives by like 30-40 years from now, and just
mm,
they're just like when they have like 10-15 wives there, like they're treating half of them, most of them like crap because I mean they have so many
Yeah,
wives.
but
Why
like how many women do you
I
think
have
don't
would
any
put
respect?
themselves
Why
in
I
that
don't
position?
I don't think that's like I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
don't
that's
think
good.
that's
'Cause
realistic at
the
all.
amount of dudes that I know that are in a
I
relationship
just
with,
pull up ancient Greece and just start going through it.
You're
yeah, but
comparing
the
like nowadays to ancient Greece. I think that's a terrible
the
comparison.
amount of dudes that I know right now in a
Well,
relationship that are like I can't even handle
I'd
this
go to
one
current
person
examples.
could not handle more than one person.
There's several polygamous societies where the women just have to stay at the house and stay at home because
That's not the case
they'll get
anymore.
kidnapped if they go out.
But that's what I'm
Like,
saying is like you're comparing it to a society that treats women like significantly different than our society does.
well,
Yeah.
because we didn't legalize. Like, I think polygamy brings with it real problems when it gets put on a mass spectrum. Like when it's
But
just a
maybe
handful
those
of people,
problems were
no
because
one
of other
cares. It
things
doesn't
from that
affect
time.
anything.
Maybe
Yeah,
But when
you're
polygamy had
you're
nothing to
you're
do with
acting
that.
as if polygamy entails that, whereas like polygamy might have come from the fact that these social like it was socially normalized to like degrade women. You know what I mean? Like you're
I
making
think they
like
come
a
hand in hand. I think that it
no, I disagree. I think
polygamy
these
will
I
on a mass scale. I think it will just lead more to it and lead back to some of the ancient problems that we got rid of 2,000 years ago.
first of all, I don't think even like again, even if
Coming
polygamy was like
back.
legalized, I don't think it would be like a normalized thing. I don't think most people would engage in it. And second of all, I disagree with your analysis that polygamy or like the
Right.
inequality stems from polygamy. I'd rather say that polygamy might stem from inequality, and that's why like these women in these societies are probably treated like shit within a polygamous relationship. It's not because of the polygamy itself; it's because of all the other social norms that
Well,
exist around in those societies.
I'm not on the top of my game here because it was a year and a half. I looked up this stuff and I took notes and stuff so I would have to refresh myself on it. And I said it'd fun to make a series on it, and just really highlight the point there on where I ended up, how I ended up on that one. And like I said, I'm black pilled on that. I said right now is like as things stand. If you're a polygamous couple, whatever. I don't really care.
Would you be okay with like people engaging in more polygamy if it wasn't like if they like just couldn't be married under it? Like if you could just like polygamous relationships are fine.
Well,
Like,
this is all an argument on scale of how widespread.
do you think it's ever
Um,
possible becoming like super widespread in our like society?
Um, um, it could potentially be, but that would be another long string of argument. Like I said, we're like what we've seen and where we've been at are very different places. So what I'd have to cite and build upon in a single conversation, it'd be a train wreck.
Fair enough. Okay.
So, but it could very well happen.
Give me
And
a.
it started in places like Japan, maybe. But
Let me go through the comments really quick. I just want to go through some of these. Bill Gates was a polygamist, but then there was a shakedown at Little St. James, and he had to return most of his. Jesus Christ. Okay, that was not the comment I was expecting to read. Let's see. How do you destroy feminism when you can't define what a woman is? Define what a woman is. Okay? If you could define it, sure. I mean, if my partner has a sugar daddy who paid our rent and only came around, I'd be cool with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, honestly, same. For
Don't worry,
comedy's
we're just gonna. Oh, sorry.
sake, I want to see a man-hating woman have multiple husbands. That'd be interesting.
I
And it was,
mean, there are definitely men like that.
imagine if someone like Amaranth was deep into polygamy, she'd have an army of thousand and ready to. Yeah, okay, like these are like, there's probably like fringe cases like that, but like Amaranth could like tip it, like could do that now. Like isn't like how some streamers treat like their fan base kind of like that. Like if you have like a bunch of like guys who are just simping for you and like basically treating you like a god, like it is just like a. I mean, you just don't have to put out at that point. That's like the biggest thing, other than like doing the stream and like looking sexy on stream. I mean, get your bag, girl, but like, I don't know how that'd be any different than what
Oh,
like is
like, if it
happening
happened
now.
today, like it's more likely that girls are gonna hook up with more guys than guys hook up with
Yeah.
girls, like other girls,
Yeah.
because it's a lot easier for girls to get with guys.
Yes. Hi, Kira's little baka. That's cute. A lot of polygamous communities exploit women. However, it is usually a power structure that forces this abuse to happen. To these women don't usually have a choice. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think that's.
I see it as just a train wreck of female rights.
I mean, you can say that, but I don't like. I would need to see something to back that up because I think saying that like
Yeah.
is one thing, but like,
Well,
I
know,
don't. Again, I
I
think
don't
like
have videos on
societies
me.
that
You
have
can't
like.
just-
No, that's fair, but I'm just saying. I think like for me, I think it's like you're saying that polygamy leads to like the violation of rights, whereas I think like the violation relates of rights probably leads is like why polygamy started. You know what I mean? Like in these
Well,
societies.
either way we argue, we end up with the same result at the end.
No.
I mean, I think that with 30 or 40 years
But-
on
but
of
Sabrina-
Because
this
if
being
you start
legalized, I
polygamy in
think
a
it's-
society that
Sabrina's
doesn't treat-
points are more
yeah.
just related to how things were at one point, where yours is how it's related to how it was and how it will be now.
Yeah.
Well, because the incentives remain the same.
Also,
I don't
you're
know.
saying-
Whenever you
hold
test
on.
the system, you go, what does the system incentivize? If
You're-
A is true, what else is true? If B is true, what else is true? And you just
You said something that was like a little bit inaccurate because you said like, oh, either way we end up in the same place. No, if you have a bad society that imposes polygamy, then you end up with a society that is terrible to women because like the polygamy structure was built on a structure that always already hated women. But if you input polygamy into a society that doesn't have as much animosity towards women, you're probably not going to end up with that same outcome. Whereas
I think that they converge similarly because I think the good society will become more the bad because of the incentive structure of polygamy itself.
But
I
where's
think
the
it's just a
But
bad
again, you're
system.
like I don't know if this is true because again, most of the societies we see with like mass polygamy are probably not societies that treat women very well, right?
Well, why is that? Why is what
Because
is
in
the
a
connection
society
there?
where you
When there's
already
other
degrade
things
women,
established besides
yeah.
polygamy.
If you're already
Well,
in
I
a
know,
soci-
but I mean,
hold on, if you're already
it's strange when all of them are that way. It's like if you
No,
have a like
if you're-
normally you have a sliding scale or a example of a well this could happen here, but it's like if it doesn't exist, if you can't find the exception, they're the problem.
Yeah, because if you're already in a society that treats women poorly, well, then you don't care about like imposing polygamy because you're like, well, women, I don't care about women anyway, so I should be able to have 50 wives because they should have no rights, right? Like,
Well,
it's
how
not
do
like
these societies improve
it's not
themselves?
really that big of a jump to say that like, oh, why is it so like, why are these things so like, these things always together? It's like probably because of what a society that like degrades one gender is probably going to more likely like have rules that allow
it's my
that.
argument to sit there and demonstrate that just by having the system here, it changes the incentive of society so that it just quits caring about women altogether.
Because I don't know if you can make that argument. Like, I don't think we have any evidence for that argument. That like
It's
polygamy,
kind of-
like
It's kind of like saying, oh, if you take a community that is mainly minority and there's high crime there, and then you put those minority people in a different community, that the crime's going to follow. Whereas, like, no, there's a lot of other things that made crime be high in that community, and it wasn't. It's like the same thing. There's no correlation to minority groups and committing crime, and there's no relation with polygamy and women's rights being abused.
Well, to me, I guess I keep laying it out there. When you have just basically, and this would be predicated on that it's majority men with status with a whole bunch of wives.
But we don't know that would happen. We don't know that is what would happen. Like if we went back to that, we don't know that is the same thing that's going to happen now.
yeah.
Well, again, I just look at current examples of it, historic examples of it, and I found literally only one existing counterexample, which had geographic conditions making it impossible for regular polygamy.
But all those,
Hold on,
all those
can I
cases, if you
offer a
look at,
counter?
probably have
Like,
a lot of other similar things that don't
If I
apply to our
if I found
society over
more
here.
counterexamples, I would be more on board of going maybe, but
no, I
because I
want to
could
just
not.
like, but this is like saying like because most of the world doesn't have like, you know, societies that are run by women, then we shouldn't run societies by women because it seems like those societies would lead to destruction because they don't exist very often. It's like, yeah, sure, we have like two or three
But I mean,
societies that like are.
I
Hold on, no,
I
no,
can
no,
point
no.
at
Hold on, let me finish.
good female rulers. I can point at I can use examples of things and go, uh, you like I can at least point something out there and work with that and I'm sure that framework wrong. This one here, I looked at it, I was like, I can't find any. I can't find any. Oh dear.
Yeah, but do you think it's like maybe just because like maybe like societies with dominant females just are like maybe women just like like they're so limited that maybe
No,
that
no,
like
I'm
it's
not talking
less
about the
likely that
dominant
they're
females.
like
I'm talking about polygamy. I said that the dominant females there, I could make an argument for. With polygamy, I'm unable to because I can't find any examples for it.
yeah, but there's no examples of like polygamy where it like is beneficial
Well,
to
I can
women
show
because
I can
there's
show
less societies that are like highly like structured by women.
well, I can show women in positions of power, just different female rulers, good and bad. I can show women as CEOs. I can show women and go, well, I'm given all these examples, therefore a society could work. I could actually string it together
Yeah.
by just going through. I can actually point at things and make a constructive argument, rationalizing it. The other one, I can't. I've been unable to do it because I do like to take. I do like to be on the fence if I can be. I do like to both sides things. I do like to argue against my own points when I can. But in this case, there it was just very one-sided. It was extremely one-sided. I was like, oh lordy.
I don't know. I would have to see more data on it because I don't know how many polygamous
Well,
societies.
how many people sit there and look up polygamy?
I mean, fair enough. I disagree with your analysis that like polygamy leads to one instead of like
Well,
something
it's
like
not like I arrived into it one night. It took a bunch of sources. It took a lot of looking
yeah.
into.
I mean that's totally fine. I'm just saying like I think I would disagree with this analysis, but maybe I'll do more research on
That's
it
fine.
and
That's
change
fine.
my
Well,
opinion.
it's just unfair of me to come in here just wielding something. It's like I can't even like link to my channel and go, hey, I already laid out the stuff and videos and you can watch.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. It's just stuff I got a hankering to look into a year ago.
I don't know. Maybe I'll look into it more, but I think I'd probably like yeah. I don't know if I'd like necessarily agree with your assessment, but
Oh, that's fine. That's
yeah.
fine. Like it's welcome to disagree. And if you can build counterexamples and stuff, go for
Yeah.
it. It's room for dialogue. I don't have to be correct. I can be moved from my position.
Yeah. And I don't know if like polygamy is like necessarily like on a mass scale would be good for society either. Like even Valdrain brought up like and I think you said it earlier of like the I like the word the capitalization of attraction. Like there's probably like people who are like really attractive in our societies would do really well, and the people at the lower ends of society probably would like suffer more. And I don't like that's just natural of being
It
humans.
was
Is like
also, I mean, another problem with polygamous societies is it encouraged wars because all these older polygamous societies, even modern ones, when you have a whole bunch of young men that can't get married, that's a problem for your society because they riot, they revolt, they cause problems, and so they'd often have extra wars just to kill off their youth.
sure, yeah, that might be true, but
I mean, like it comes with so much baggage, and like when I unpack it all, it's just like, oh no, because it just be like it's problem after problem after problem after problem. I'm only scratching the tip of the iceberg here when I did
yeah,
research.
I for me is like I don't like limiting humans on what they can do, whereas like
Well,
yeah, I don't know,
it's the do no harm principle. It's a
yeah,
do no harm principle. And I just said, like to me, I looked at it, I looked at the system, I'm going, oh, this system plugs in with so many of our older systems that we've done away with so nicely. I can now better understand why the old world was the way it was. Because these systems feed into each other.
yeah. Let me go through the comments quickly. I think his argument is that women are being exploited in polygamous relationships. Women are also exploited in monogamous relationships just because you can only do it to one woman at a time. I mean, yeah, but I think the argument was a little bit different than that even.
Well, I have to
Yeah,
ask, what's the difference between your 10th wife and your 15th wife?
yeah. But I also think
Um,
yeah, just because like abuse can happen in both relationship, it's like well, there's probably like specific types of issues that arise from polygamous relationships that aren't just like necessarily around abuse, right? Oh, hi, psychologist. Polygamy often tends to push intimate partner violence, an older partner in relationships, so without constant on older partners in the relationship, so without constant communication and boundary setting, issues may arise. Interesting. I did not know that. I wonder if because I think a lot of like up until like I don't know, maybe the last 5 or 6 years, the only time I ever saw polygamy really was like in like very like Mormon type communities, like hyper like these religious cultist community. I feel bad calling them a cult. Actually, they are a cult. I have no problem saying that. But like religious cultist communities that had polygamy in them, like Mormons, is where we saw a lot of like polygamy happen. And I wonder if like a lot of the reasons that we see like high rates of intimate partner violence isn't necessarily because of the polygamy itself, but rather because of like the situation that polygamy arises in. So like if you have like a polygamous relationship in a religious under a religious institution, then like if that religious institution holds up men, they're more likely to be able to like push boundaries with their partners.
How much of the 1% have wonderful character, or just like how much of the top male politicians, top judges, top rock stars are actually good, solid men with great values and are just known for respecting women?
Yeah, probably a lesser percentage than other.
And then you give them a bunch of wives.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but
I'm just putting it out there.
we're not talking about giving. Hold on, we're not talking about giving people wives.
I would say more than people want to admit, but it's still a big portion that don't. Because you gotta understand, when someone is respectful, you don't hear about it.
Hold on,
we don't hear about so and so was good to their wife today.
Two things. I want to say, there's probably a disproportion of bad people in powerful positions because they're more likely to do bad things to be able to get to top positions. That's fine to say that,
because
right? It's a but yeah, we're not talking about like
in general.
No. There's like a large amount of like there's bad people in every community. However, if we can see a disproportionate amount in certain communities just because those type of communities call for it. So like political positions, right?
Is it that they're called for or that they're highlighted more?
No, I think there's also like there's probably communities that call for it, so it's disproportionate. It might not mean there's like it's not like 75% of politicians are bad people. It just might mean that like compared to the rest of the population, maybe like in the general population 10% are really abusive, and in politicians or like we see this with police officers, like 60% of like police officers end up like in domestic abuse issues just because like again when you're in like a position of power in like your daily life, like these things, like sometimes you just see disproportionate levels of bad people in certain areas just because like their areas call for a certain type of personality, right? That's fine. But
you
also
start to see some of the problems I've been pointing out here, just that like this is the kind of people, and I'm like I don't know, it's already bad.
Yeah, but what you also said the words like now we give them 10 wives. Well, in our society, we wouldn't be giving anybody wives. Like that's the whole point. Is like people would have the choice. If you want to put yourself in a bad position,
you get what I mean.
I mean, I guess, but like I think the wording has to be really careful there because again, like sure, you can be a bad person with like a lot of power.
I was sloppy, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But the wording changed it a lot. The wording goes from something that could be valid to your argument to something that's like
women don't just materialize; they're not handed out by the state.
Yeah. So what we're saying is like, but like even if you have like bad people with like
when you say now they have to, that is if it was this happens and they get 10 words, that is directly anti-feminist, right? But to be like they have the option and these women get to choose if they want to do that or not. The choice, the women still have choice.
Yeah,
that's
the big part.
As long as they have choice, as long as they have the same rights and everything,
that'd be
all that feminism is.
The choice would be in the first 10 years. After like a generation of this where it becomes like super normalized, I don't know at that point. Because I said, I look at some of these polygamous societies.
I don't think if you normalize it for a couple decades, the law's going
to
change
again, you're making the jump that
men get to pick who they want, when they want.
You're making a big jump to say that like polygamy necessarily leads to female disenfranchisement, whereas like I think female disenfranchisement like creates polygamy in a lot of these societies. You would have to prove that the other
into a scarce resource. Like
you're acting as if like only men would have multiple wives though.
How? What's the correlation
from throughout history and through the? I was able to name like if I can pull up Wikipedia and give you the one place.
Those places probably already looked at women as objects, and then they just like, we're also poly.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that it follows historic patterns and literally every other place on Earth. But if we take the same patterns that everywhere else on the Earth and every example of polygamy I can find, except for one place on Earth.
Yeah, but if you're basing on historical precedent, there was like historically precedent, like women were much worse off in like before like even like 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so unless you're looking at like a really like adept like progressive society in the last 40 years, I don't know if you can make this comparison.
You're assuming
I-
cause
I-
and effect, that this cause
Well,
and
Yeah.
effect.
I think that it has so many. Like I said, it took me a bunch of videos to lay it out, and I think I could make a very clean argument and lay it out very cleanly using current examples, past examples, and just the incentives of polygamy in general, other
Yeah.
systems it plugs into, and just go why it would be a net negative and why basically most of the planet has it banned.
I mean, I don't know.
There's no argument. There's no disagreement that it might be a negative thing, but I don't think
Yeah.
it'd be a negative thing directly for female rights.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
Bram
what I
said.
that's what I have
Yeah.
to lay out because I think that in like 30, 40 years it would utterly destroy female rights.
I wholeheartedly
Even if
disagree
it
with
does,
this.
I think utterly destroy is an extreme.
Yeah.
The-
I think that we'd get I think you just get absolute patriarchy. You get men that can do just anything they feel
I
like.
don't-
So you'd have a
I don't
much more
I don't
higher
see how
rate
we
of-
would allow, because
You'd have much
people-
higher
people-
rates of pedophilia again.
people-
You'd have much higher rates of just it would just take a while to lay out all the arguments into.
I would be
what you'd
so
end up with.
interested if you want to ever like come back with a full argument because I would like to see how it leads to all these things. But
Oh yeah. I'd have,
again,
I'd have
I
to-
think
don't
you're
see
assuming a
a
lot of a
society
cause and
where
effect
we
here.
just roll over and be like, yeah, that's how it is now. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of pushback.
That's like
towards
everyone who
that.
said that like gay rights was going to lead to like more pedophilia.
Well, again, I just start like what's the difference between your sixth wife, your 10th wife?
But even if we
why do you-
even if we have polygamous like relationships, the amount of people that are going to have 6, 10 partners, 10 wives is ridiculous.
That's also
Well,
true.
I'd
Yeah.
have
We're
to get
still
to the average number
in the
of-
Western society where we don't look at men and women like that, and we don't have those types of lifestyles.
Well,
People
again,
got jobs,
currently,
people
we're
have bills
talking-
to
we're
pay,
talking
people got families. They don't have time for one relationship. A lot of people don't have time for more than one relationship.
Well, I first have to separate. Going, if it was legalized tomorrow, would this happen? No, we're talking about 40 years of it being
But a
legal.
I
lot
think
of
even in
things
40
have
years,
become
I think it's a
formalized
lot.
and
I think it's a far cry to
everybody's
say that.
engaged in it.
But
If-
if you look at 40 years, the 40 years of progression that we've had now, more people are working, more people are busy now than there were 40 years ago.
True.
And if we just keep following that, people are just going to keep getting more busy and less time to have 10 wives. A lot
Yeah,
of people I know
yeah.
can't even handle having one relationship going on right now, let
Right.
alone more than one.
We have to step out of our current system and go. If we make rule changes, and the second thing is that it becomes normalized, meaning that basically everyone is already doing it. What does it look like at that point? So it is not literally tomorrow. It's not next week. It's not next month. It's like what happens to society in the long run.
But that's saying that in society in the long run we're gonna be a lot more chill and we're just gonna have more time for relationship. Like that's what I'm saying. We don't have time for that many relationships. Nobody has time for a relationship, let alone a bunch of relationships. Like it's most likely not gonna be like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
No,
that
I know. 'Cause
celebrities.
the world's a
I think that
motherfucker, and you
rock
gotta work your ass off to even make a
Yeah,
living.
I think
today.
I think you're making a lot of assumptions on
Well, again,
of a
we're talking about
society
the
that's
upper
not
class.
like.
Do the upper class really need to work? Do all the rock stars? Do all the
But that's
multi-millionaires,
1%. You're talking about the
billionaires,
1%. That is 1%.
Well, again,
True.
we're talking about high upper class. Even
Those
high
people,
middle class.
the 1%, they're already doing that shit. Laws don't affect them.
Yeah.
They're already
well,
doing all that shit, and we see, we hear it all the
They have to
time.
do it under the table. They have to do it under the table. It's
Not even. We hear it all the time.
No,
we know
you
about
hear
it.
that constantly about these like stars.
Musicians
cheating
are
and shit.
constantly making music about it. Drake is constantly being like, "I'm fucking 40 hoes."
Well, again, I told you earlier. Like I started the conversation. We're a pseudo polygamous society because that's the way society runs right now. We're pseudo polygamous. We're halfway there. We just haven't had.
But like, what would your
sacrament
prescription
totally
otherwise be?
legalized.
Like that, like ban like extramarital like relations or something? Would you like what would your alternative to that be though? Because like then you start getting to weird like series of like limits on people. Like, would you like ban extramarital relations? Would you say like limited dating scope, like stuff?
Stop free people from being free. I just said this would be a bad direction to go.
Also, we don't
in
even
the
know how
long run.
marriage is gonna work in 10 years.
Well, yeah. Right now, marriage is dying. It's it's going the way of the
Well,
wind.
when our
So if
yeah,
marriage, if marriage is dying and people are just not getting married, who cares what the law says? You can get married to 10 people or not. You can be with 10 people. You can be with a relationship
I
with
know.
3 people right now, right? So it's like,
yeah,
you
people
know,
are polyamorous. Yeah.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
may end up with a full polygamous society, in which
Yeah.
case I can lay out a very good case of where it will lead in about 40 to 50 years. It won't be the first generation that's a super problem. It'll be the second and the third.
Yeah, I don't know. I think again, I think it
Until
takes a
grown
lot
up
of
that's
assumptions to
normal.
get to like a like that type of like you'd have to make a lot of assumptions based on like history that like
The,
I don't know if necessarily apply to this day and age anymore.
the only thing I would say is that like extramarital affairs, cheating should be stigmatized, but I
Yeah,
mean,
cheating for sure.
you can't ban it. I like I don't know.
I don't know. I know there's one state that has cheating that's illegal. It's illegal to cheat. I don't remember which state it
Good
is.
luck
There is one.
enforcing it.
What?
Good luck enforcing it. That
Yeah,
law.
true. I mean, you could
Like
take someone to like court for it. You can try, but
yeah, I know. Like that's why I laugh at some of the stuff going that you can make any law you want, but you can't enforce any law. That's just not
yeah.
how it works. So like I said, like I would be for banning things if it worked and was effective and helped people on an individual level. But
Hmm.
when they don't and they make things worse, there's no point in even arguing for it
Oh man, we got
because
a
nobody wins.
degenerate in
Nobody's happy.
chat
It didn't
saying
make society
cheating.
better in any way.
Wait, what
Yeah.
makes cheating even hotter? That it's illegal? You're a fucking degenerate. Jesus Christ.
What?
Someone commented.
Someone in the comments.
Oh. I was like, what?
No, no, no.
No, sorry, not you.
Oh, no.
You're fine,
That's just
Cloud.
a-
We like you, okay? That's why we bring you on. We can disagree all we want, but I like having these conversations because I like having people on that I disagree with. I usually have Sin on Fridays and we have a lot of agreement, but it's fun to bring people on that I disagree with. But it's good for conversation, right?
Right.
I just think like our analysis of these situations would probably like come out very different.
Oh yeah. Well, we both come from different oceans.
Yeah.
Online, we've just been in the content we've been in. We've grown up the way we have,
Yeah.
and at the long of the day, if we can find common ground, agree, and just try to make things better, so that everybody wins, it's happy. It's like I was jumping back to the Daryl Davis versus Tim Pool argument there. Daryl Davis was big on reparations,
Mm.
and Tim Pool was trying to point out flaws with the argument, and I'm like, just we can just like I would like to I don't care for all lives matter. I don't care for Black Lives Matter. Just make poor lives matter because the poor need help by definition.
Are you a Marxist?
No.
Oh, okay. You just call us talk about
I,
class issues a lot. I just assume like sometimes I mean I don't assume. I just always just like think that people like who like get really into like class issues probably like have a little bit more of like a
no,
Marx.
my start into politics on YouTube, listening to people at Sargon, and he talked a lot about classism, and I listened and I agreed a lot with it.
I
Uh,
agree there's a lot of issues of classism, but I think a lot of our issues of classism also can be like rooted in certain like racial or gendered issues. Like I think there's like specific things that like might apply to like certain groups.
yeah.
Like the
Well,
reasons for like ending up in certain places, like you know what I mean? Like a black person who ends up poor might have very different reasons for being poor than like a white person who's poor, right? Like or like the
I can't
history.
disagree with that, but I like my personal theory there is if the inner cities here were improved with increased funding, increased resources. If the Black community was in general moved up to middle class, a lot of the things that are called racism would fade away because there were actually classism issues. Society hates the poor.
Yeah, 100%.
Society
I would
always.
agree with that. Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of go, let's just line up on Poor Lives Matter. Pick some inner cities, pick some Hispanic communities, pick some white communities. Doesn't matter. They're poor. They need help. Get resources. Everybody wins.
I could agree with that. I just think there's like sometimes like
I
when we
think
talk
that
about like social issues or like when there's systemic things that like affect disproportionately affect certain groups, I think those are things that like you could like yeah, sure we could say like I think helping like I think like criminal issues like within like the justice system can't be helped by like just saying like let's help classes because like black
I
people
think
end up in crime for very different reasons and they're like over policed for very different reasons like these are things that
right.
like I don't necessarily we can't fix through like class issue like class analysis.
I don't know about that. I think that if my theory here is overall, if the Black community, if other communities are pulled out of poverty, given more opportunity, the infamous stats will change.
But the
People,
thing about it is when you take them out, when you take a minority group out of poverty or lower class or whatever, there's still that minority group. So they're still being looked at as a and
Also,
people.
yeah.
yes, well, we talked about
People
majority
hate
bias.
on anybody who's different.
Yeah, we talked about majority bias earlier. I totally agree. There will always be majority bias. And there was a paper on that every racial group has intergroup preference. which is dumb. I don't know. I grew up. I didn't know racism was a thing until high school. I just was. I was grew up in South Carolina too, so I feel really bad and really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know sexism was a thing until college, and I was like, really, really, because
Hmm.
like my family was just a whole bunch of strong, awesome women. Just how it
Mm-hmm.
was when I was in ROTC. There was just females in there. I never thought anything of it.
Hmm.
It just never occurred to me, never dawned on me that people get hung up on such stupid issues.
Mm-hmm. I think yeah, I think that's like a really lucky perspective to come from, because I think it's
I
like it says something that like you were lucky enough not to be around like people who were like so terrible that like these things were pervasive in your life. But like even for me and
well,
Rams, we talked about it earlier. Like even our experiences growing up were like we were around people who treated us differently because of our skin color and stuff like that, right? Like,
right. Well, I mean,
um,
I got harassed. I had a whole bunch of, but it's not here and there. Like it just never dawned on me.
mm-hmm.
Because like currently I'm in Alaska. That's where I spent a lot of my childhood. I
Oh,
bounced
okay,
between here and the lower 48. And it dawned on me like once I learned about racism, I was like, oh, parts of my childhood make sense now.
yeah, no, for sure.
My best friend from second grade, kindergarten, left me because he thought I called him a dirtball.
Oh,
Um, he was a Native American, and like I was just shocked and confused when I was a kid, going, "I didn't insult you.
mm-hmm.
Why would I call anybody dirt? That doesn't make any sense." And now I can see that he took it as I was being racist, but
Hmm.
Yeah,
I didn't even say that, and B, I just didn't comprehend it.
yeah.
So
Um,
it just went completely over my head.
no, for sure. I just think
Hmm.
yeah. Um, Yeah, I personally disagree with that. Like everything can be fixed through class issues because I think
No,
there
no, no,
are
not
the
everything,
yeah.
not everything.
That's why I
Well,
think
let's
like
I get
sometimes like when we talk about racial or gendered issues, I think these are things that need to be like focused on within themselves. Um,
well,
yeah.
like I'm not try not to misconstrue my arguments here. I'm
Hmm.
saying a lot can be done. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the bigger
Okay, that's
problems.
fair. Yeah, yeah.
But I totally just talked with you guys earlier. I talked about majority bias. I said I think that is such a pervasive, big thing.
Hmm.
Um, that and that this will always cause problems.
Yeah.
And then I cited like there's a paper here that shows races have an interracial bias.
Yeah.
That's a problem that's just inherent to people, meaning you have to work around that. So there will always be racial problems. There will always be gender problems, but we can at least fix the class problems.
Yeah. I would.
I think that will give a lot of benefit to a lot of people.
That's fair. I would agree with that pretty much.
So I'd like that's a group I'd
Yeah.
like to start if I ever get financing. I'd like to just donate to different groups. Just go like I watched that video on from the New York Times, liberal hypocrisy. They're not living their values or something like that, where
Hmm.
it brought up the Illinois with the schools being underfunded, with the school held together by duct tape
Yeah.
because of how the school zoning works. And I'm like, that's an injustice.
Yeah.
I don't care what gender, what ethnicity the students are in that school. This is our youth. This is our country. This is our citizens. Why are they in this falling apart school?
Yep. No, for
Um,
sure.
and
Um,
I think that this is something that the left and right can just unite upon and just go.
yeah, but
Let's
I don't know if you'll ever get like agreement on how to fix these problems, and I don't know if like because the problem is also a lot of like and not, I don't hate conservatives or anything because I think there's
It's
like
funny because I am conservative.
yeah, I don't want to say like anything bad, but I think there's a lot of conservatives who have a much more bootstraps approach than you do. Like you're much more like, we need like social programs that help like bring up these like places, but a lot of like conservatives typically are against like social programs and stuff that like
I'm in an awkward position where I look at more like Mr. Beast here, where I'm very big on just grassroots movements. This would be something like if I were to get money and influence, it's something I'd try to campaign actively to do.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. But I
Raise resources
also
for get people to donate, so it's all voluntary. It's I don't
I
know.
think that's fine, but like I don't know if charity can fix everything because I think charity is like an outside source into an like a structured problem. I think you actually have to change the structures in which we build these issues. So like why are there
You
schools
missed
that
me
get
part
so
way.
why is there schools that get so little funding that they're literally falling apart? Like that's a structural
Yeah,
issue that you can throw
it's
all the
its own.
charity you want, but like if like in 20 years like people stop giving charity to it because they think it's better, well then it starts to like degrade again because like all of a sudden it doesn't have the structural like
Right.
balance to
Well,
like continue.
it's a zoning issue. It's problems that I don't know can be overcome. And so I like because to me there it's not just charity. getting people more proactive to actually be doing things with their hands and feet. Because I don't know, I see the citizens of the country as a more effective force for doing good. And as long as they're actually taking the effort to clean up, to do good, to push for better.
I agree with that to an extent, but I just don't know if like people themselves. I think when you have a structure like a system that's fundamentally built to like, or not fun like when it's built in a way that doesn't allow for like communities to support themselves in that way, I don't know if you're ever going to have enough community support to like permanently fix these issues. I
No.
think like going after structures and systems and institutions is where you can make like real big changes, because I think the way we set these things up needs to be changed.
Political
I
problems will
mean,
only be solved politically.
Yeah.
like I don't know. Because to me, they're like I don't know. In my mind here, I just think that if these if you were to, for instance, take the Illinois state here and help the schools, which creates more opportunity, they get better jobs, can generate more wealth, which funnels into the system that already exists, where it's all gerrymandered hell, so that their district now gets more funding because they have better jobs working in that area. Um, and you end up with a, a fix over time
Mm-hmm.
by removing the wealth inequality.
Yeah. Coastal DJ,
Uh,
I also want to ask what ML is, so if you want to answer that in the comments if you're still here. Someone also asked, like, how do you fix the schools? I think there's better ways to
Greater
do it than
government
just like talking
funding.
about charity. Like, I think like for one, like you would have to like fix the like ways that we fund schools. So like I'm in Canada, so it's a little bit different. But in the States where like your stuff is based off your like what I think is property taxes and like local tax or whatever, I think that's a terrible way to do it, because if you have like obviously like low income areas, you're gonna have like low funded schools. I think in any case like there probably should be some level of like government funding to like schools and stuff so that there's a little bit more equity across the board. I don't know how I feel about like being able to choose the school you go to, because I think that just incentivizes anyone who's able to go to a higher paying like a better school to like leave, and then like any of the poor kids who can't afford to like travel that far for school then like have to stay in like the shitty school. So I don't think that's a good fix, as many people like, because many people advocate for that, like, oh, everyone should just be able to go to the good schools. It's like, well, now you're just going to make the good schools worse because they're going to be overloaded.
uh,
There's a lot of like fixes that you probably could do. I'd have to sit down and think about it, but I know like one of the ones is like by funding
well,
schools with property taxes, you're like setting it up for like failure, because like those
well,
areas are, yeah. Good.
I'll send you the video later, but it's just a good demonstration that if neither party wants to fix it, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, of
Um,
course, obviously.
so I would just because yeah, this video just Democrat just going focusing on Illinois, the Democrat state with all the mayors. They don't care. It's not going
Yeah,
to be fixed.
I hold
And
on.
so
I don't want to say so. Grassroots action is better than nothing, but systemic change would probably be better than like grassroots charity
well,
action,
I think I think
right?
if you have grassroots something like what Mr. Beast does of that scale, that it will generate systemic change with it because you're actually getting people on the ground doing it.
Yeah, you probably could,
Uh,
but I don't know how plausible that is. Like when you have like 1 in a million that is a Mr. Beast.
he's a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
But yeah, no. So like I would just like I don't know. 'Cause, yeah, right now I'm just dirt poor. I'm lower class, but like I said, if I had influences, it's stuff I'd be seeking to do because it would. I don't know. I like I would like to leave the world better after I leave than
Yeah.
how it is.
No,
And
I
it'd
mean
be
that's
nice
what
to
I'm
just,
trying to do with my future profession too, right? Like I want to go into the criminal justice system, but like schooling is one thing, and as 300 Merc said, you just say you don't have an answer. I literally gave you one answer, but I said I'd have to think about like being able to like provide like better materials for students is probably one big one, right? Like
yeah.
You
throwing,
would need better
These
government
schools will
funding.
have a list of things they
yeah,
need.
Yeah.
They need to be able to keep the water out of the building. That would help. They need to be have like access to enough desks, enough chairs, enough
educational reform,
payment for staff,
yeah,
um,
education
current
reform,
textbooks.
uh, better payment for staff is definitely a big one, especially when teachers are paid so poorly in the states. Um, Adequate health and lifestyle choices. So, like for a lot of these kids, if you're going to school on an empty stomach because you haven't eaten in 2 days because your family can't afford to like put food on the table, you're probably not going to be set up for a good education. So, this is probably having like decent food programs, which like in my area, like my mom works in the education system. Every school she's worked at, she has made sure that they have access to like good food by setting up like a good food program there, so that students like who don't have access because she like works in a poorer neighborhood just like those kids can come in for breakfast program. That means they get access to breakfast. They also have a lunch program that they set up at their school, which means they get access to a lunch. And they even have like food donations from like local bank charities where they set up backpacks where like the food then goes home with kids over the weekend. So they have food over the weekend as well.
Yeah.
So this is like,
And
this is a huge change you can make in these kids' life to like, because like for like kids in lower class schools, it's like you can have access to like every material, but if you're not well nourished, then you're not going to retain any information you learn. So that's like a huge
Yep.
one.
Access to resources and just I don't know. One of the biggest thing there is just making education exciting. Because like I
Yeah.
said, the school system as a whole here, even in the better schools, they have high dropout rates
Yep.
because I don't know. Like there's a lot of like there comes a point where you just throw too much money at it, and
Well, money,
uh,
like you can't just, yeah, everyone's like, oh, just give it more money. It's like you can't throw money at an issue and expect it to change. It never does.
it doesn't. So there needs to be a modification of even the good schools here that have like these ridiculously high dropout rates.
Wait,
Something's gone horribly wrong here, where the education is no longer engaging the students there.
yeah.
Also, after school programs, just in general.
Yeah,
Not even just
after
for like
school
educational
ooh,
purposes, but
I wrote
just
my
in
whole
general, just to keep kids out of
trouble.
trouble and bad
And that doesn't even need to be set up
environments.
by the school. That can be set up by like
Yeah.
external groups like police forces and stuff. That is something I wrote my like one of my last papers are all on in youth criminal justice. But like having like even like police forces set up after school programs where kids like have like proper monitoring and proper like like just activities that like are structured for them in like hours from like even like 2 to 5 o'clock
Yeah.
is like can highly reduce the kid like chance of kids engaging in crime. Also, someone said 300 mercs. You think giving food to children is going to make them take way better choices in life? Yes. A lot of
It's
kids get
A
into
hungry
bad
kid
situations.
can't a hungry kid can't focus on anything besides
Hungry
being
kid can't focus on anything. Hungry kid is also going to look to external routes to find like food, which means that like I'm sorry, but if you don't have access to your basic needs, a lot of these kids like that's why you turn to crime, so you could
it's one
provide
of
yourself
many.
with basic needs. Like
But it's also just one factor of many. You
yeah,
listed out a whole bunch of different factors, going that all of these together
he's like you have a
make it
generic
so that
answer
he
that doesn't
has
really
more
change
opportunities in the
anything.
future.
But that's
Because,
what when you were talking about
Like
a
how in depth
grounded
do you want me
root
to
of
go
it,
here right now?
like the grounded root would work. It's just not necessarily like donating to the schools, but setting up like those out of school programs more so because the school system we can't change it. That's something that the school system and the government have to look into. But after school programs, lunch programs, breakfast program, all those stuff, like a community can push for and can do
Yeah.
themselves.
Also, he said the problem is that children doesn't take care about taking school seriously. First of all, it's clear you didn't take school seriously, considering that sentence. Second of all, it's not like kids don't take school seriously. There's probably a whole bunch of factors that like lead to kids. Like, there's a reason that kids in poor areas seem to take school less seriously, and it's usually because again, if you don't have like the basic needs in your life, you're not going to worry about school or doing well in school because you're worried about getting like just your basic needs met. And if you don't have those, then nothing else matters. But then even like, yeah, go ahead.
There's a whole bunch of factors there, but I said like one of the big ones there is that you need, they also need good business opportunities so they get the education. Now they can go take jobs there because if the crime jobs pay better than working a real
100%,
job,
yeah.
which are they going to take?
Also, homie, we're talking about kids, not just like high schoolers, but like kids, elementary
like
kids,
little
all
kids.
kids.
Yeah.
You don't blame them kids for nothing.
True. That's what I was thinking. Is like I was like in my head I was thinking like elementary school level because that's what like obviously like the people around me work in like elementary school education.
If they're not engaging in this, that has nothing to do with them.
There's
that has everything to do with everything else.
Yeah.
Of not being able to have them like we're all kids. We all are kids at one point to be like, oh, kids aren't engaging. That's a societal problem, but we don't put that on the kids.
And
we
again,
see how we
like,
fix. How do we help the kids?
The problem is
you have to have
culture.
a good-
Most children want fast money and to be cool. That's I don't know. Like I mean, kids. Yeah, kids want money and to be
they're
cool, but it's
kids.
like it's
They're
not
fucking
more
kids.
than they want like a good future. Like I don't think like kids like have stupid dreams when they're young. But like it's
When
not
I was
that
in
like,
elementary, I was not thinking about what my money income is gonna be like. No,
Yeah, exactly.
That's not why I wasn't engaging with this shit. It's just because I was thinking about fucking going home and playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like,
If parents could program children to take school seriously, the world would be different. Yeah, but you're never going to program kids to take school seriously. You need to just set them up to be able to take school seriously. Like, there's a lot of kids who take, like, school seriously, but it's usually because they have, like, everything else in their, like, for me, I grew up with, like, parents who could put food on the table. I had parents who were, like, spent enough time with us. I also had like extra like, you know, grandparents who helped like support us and stuff like that. Like we were like, I had everything else in my life, so I could sit there and take school seriously. I would never like ascribe to some kid who like can barely get food on the table once a day to like have that same level of respect for their education. No,
Yeah, I
you
don't know.
literally
I
can't.
just
Yeah,
always,
not without being abusive. I'm sorry.
I just always look at it as children are children, and
Yeah,
if the system in place isn't working for them, change the system.
and
You're
that's
not going
one
to
of
change
the.
the kids.
But I
Yeah.
mean, that's what when we go back to schools are underfunded and everything. It's because there are so many kids in different situations, right? Some kid might be on the spectrum. This kid might have ADHD or this and that and that, and we can't. The schools don't have the funding or the resources
Mm-hmm.
to attend to all those different types of kids,
Yeah.
right?
Like my mom
So
would.
when we talk
Yeah.
about more government funding and stuff like that, it's like so we can focus more on these kids with these with special needs and help them out as well.
Yeah, well,
Um.
it's less the money and more the services you're offering.
Yeah, we resources in general, right?
The resources is the key part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Someone said.
just throwing money at it, the schools will
No.
find
Yeah.
many dumb things to do with money that aren't
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, 100%.
Having extra teachers in the classroom and stuff like that will help out dramatically.
The only way to help low-income neighborhood schools is a cultural shift in the adults in the communities and incentives for business to open the area. I'd agree with that. I think there needs to be some cultural shift, but also you need to like create opportunities for people in an area so that they like, again, like
Yeah,
it's a two-sided problem, right? You can't just like focus on one side of the coin. Like you need like systemic shift, and you also probably need some type of like cultural change. You're
you
done for
start
saying that my
somewhere and
parents
you
were
work
just
from there.
strict and made me get good grades. I'm I don't know if English is your second language, so I don't want to make fun of you too much. But like, if your parents were that like, not every okay, you had parents who are around you enough to be that strict. What if there's a kid who like basically sees their parent like 1 hour a day when their kid like parent comes home from like working a 16-hour shift just to sleep and go back to work? That parent has no time to focus on like making sure that their kid is in class every day, making sure they're doing their homework. Like this is not like maybe you were in a position where you had parents who were around that much, but like if you're a kid who's in a family like where like both of your parents, or maybe you only have one parent who's working 24/7 almost, and like you never like you barely see them, then yeah, you're not gonna have that same discipline from your parents to like be able to like do well in school.
Also, you might just been a kid that it was just a lot easier for you to do good in school, which
Well,
not every kid's like that.
well, the reason I focus on the schools because that's something I can, as an outsider, directly affect.
Yeah,
I'm not
Yeah.
going to go up to households and go,
knock on their door
you're
and
not,
be like,
Here,
"Is your
would you
kid
like
doing their
5? Yeah,
homework?"
that's
yeah,
just not going to
exactly.
go well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
But
Yeah.
you can help them kids do better in school by after school programs, after school tutoring, right? Having programs where these kids have somewhere to go to do their homework. Besides, because maybe some kids have households that just aren't the most open and a cozy place to do your homework and stuff like that. We knew growing up, we knew a lot of kids like that, right?
Yeah.
Having after school programs will help them.
If the culture doesn't provide a stable environment that allows the student to excel, then sure, we can blame the culture. Yeah, there's like, again, it's two-sided. Like you probably need a cultural shift and you also need a system shift. Like these aren't like mutually
well,
exclusive solutions, right?
I think that we'll more likely have a system shift that causes cultural shift, rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
Also, we never said it was the school's fault.
Yeah, hold on. Hold on.
They're.
You're like,
Yeah, go ahead.
everything you guys talk about is excuses. No, they're just circumstances that lead to like issues. Like we're not excusing behavior, but we're saying like there's probably circumstances that set these kids up in worse ways. Yeah, they had a kid that they could not take care of. Even if that's so, you would have to be then pro contraception, sex ed, and abortion if you want to take that stance. Second of all, people also end up in these situations later. What if you have a kid and then your husband like leaves you, or your wife leaves you, and now you're a single parent household? What if you go through like a huge like you both get laid off your jobs and now you're like working like 3 different jobs just to pay the bills and shit like that? Like these things happen over time. It doesn't necessarily like you have a kid that you can't take care of.
I mean,
That's
the world
dumb,
is just
yeah.
how it is. We got to work around it.
Yeah. And like there's always going to be people who make stupid decisions. There's always going to be people in bad situations, and it's not necessarily like we should punish those people. No, you just don't have a kid. If you can't, yeah, if you foresee the future that you're going to get laid off, and like I think you're just a troll, honestly. There's no way you're this stupid. Sorry. Hey, how's it going? Hi, Violet.
I
Yeah.
hope you don't have a fucking kid.
Yeah, I hope, like, seriously, if this is like your stance, I don't know, like, if you just haven't thought everything out, but like,
Rather, this is a
if
troll or
you're,
not.
yeah,
Back to the point where he's like, my parents are strict and made me. There are a lot of kids who have parents that are quote unquote strict, and then those kids, sure, they get good grades, but they end up turning out being adults and having all these
fucked up issues.
internal issues
Yeah,
that now they gotta deal with. And then if you ask them, they're probably like, "Yeah, it sucks," and we'd rather not have these issues.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
I definitely know
right.
friends who, or like, or your friends are hella, or like your parents are hella strict, and it just causes you to rebel because you like hate your parents because they like they don't care about anything about except you doing well in school, and now you're like, well, you don't actually care about me as a person, and like these kids like hardcore rebel and go the other way, and now you have a kid who's also doing worse. It's like I don't think being a strict parent is a solution to like kids
The
doing
big
better
factor
in
is that
school.
they're kids. We're dealing with kids, and kids
Yeah.
are they're growing and they're very sensitive and they're very vulnerable at this time
If you,
at those ages.
let me talk
Yeah.
about something like if you send your kid to a school that has zero supplies, that has overcrowded classrooms that your teacher can't help, like what if your kids just like, you know, you struggle with math but you have like 40 other, like, or not 40, 30 other kids in that classroom that your teacher also has to help, like you're not getting that one-on-one support that you would in like maybe a classroom of like, you know, 24 or 25 kids that you could have like more time with that teacher, more time to learn. It's a quieter environment. There's you know, that type of stuff. Like in poor schools, like you have overcrowded classrooms, you have less access to good materials that could help your students, you have probably less after school support, less like EA support for
I
like
may
students
engage
with
for a minute.
designations. Like these are all things that like confound, and again, I work, like my family works in education, I know these issues.
Yeah. I was just gonna say there that this person here doesn't strike me as a troll. Like it just is that they may just be a young person here who's just coming into
Dumb as
politics and
fuck.
have very strong viewpoints
Sorry.
because they've just not super looked into it. Because it looks like a lot of talking points rather than a
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I can't tell if they're a troll or if they're like actually like they believe this, but either way, I think
Well, I
these are
mean,
good things to address because they're
I
probably
mean,
not
when
people
they
who believe them.
when they say you guys probably don't have kids, that's the only thing that I was like, oh, okay, no.
Yeah.
At that point,
Yeah,
it's
if
all.
you say just
But
don't have kids and like you either have to
Well, it might strike you as a troll argument, but I mean, I can.
oh no, that strikes me as someone who probably is an adult.
Yeah, like I said, like they seem to be arguing consistently, and they have not like tried to super bad faith or anything. They're not just telling jokes, and I
Yeah,
don't know. When I see trolls, I see trolls, but I mean, like this here, it just seems like somebody who was really
Yeah,
hardcore
maybe.
positions here, of super bootstrap, super be reliant on yourself. It's
Yeah,
like that's
which
not how that
has
works.
never ever worked in history.
That's not how that works.
and let's make
Um,
clear. Okay, the school system isn't supposed to have your kids make good decisions, and everything, but it's supposed to give your kids the resources
You're
to have a
supposed to set
chance.
kids up for like a good future, you know what I mean? Like your
Yeah.
school should be like you should be going to school in, like in a way that like,
There
you
are
know,
grown-up kids that no matter what you do for them, they're just not gonna end up on the right path,
yeah.
yeah.
right? And that's just the reality of it. But the
Yeah.
school system should be there to try to give these kids a fighting chance.
But I'd say in general, yeah, it's a good policy. If you cannot, if you know you cannot take care of your kids, it's a better idea not to. But people are going to be people,
Yeah.
and
Also,
they'll
I
always
would
do
like
dumb
to ask
things.
to like through and Merc, are you pro abortion then? Like would you like what if someone got pregnant and like couldn't take care of the kid? Then would you be okay with them like saying like I'm gonna get an abortion? And again, like what if you come into unforeseen circumstances? Like what if like you're married, you have a kid, and then that person like, you know, leaves you, like if you're like now a single parent household, or again, you know, go through like economic crisis and like you both like, you know, get laid off or like lose your job or whatever, like that's another like you just can't see into the future. You might not know that this is like a circumstance that will come about. To be fair though, some schools are corrupt. I don't know the context behind this, but I know a corrupt school when I see one or hear about one judging by the stories. Yeah, I mean there's probably like some of those.
I suspect his position would be high abstinence. Like
Oh, he
just,
says I don't
just
have a stance on abortion, to be fair. I mean that's fair, but I would
That's
just say
fair.
like
You don't have to.
yeah.
yeah, and like like he might just be coming into the field here and have strong
Yeah.
positions and just
Yeah.
hasn't really thought through it
To
all.
to take of don't have kids if you can't take care of them. Yeah. I mean, if you're financially not in the best place and you're like, I want to have a kid,
The
I would
stupid.
look at that
Yeah.
as an irresponsible thing. But also, it's the philosophy, like it's like you can't. How do you tell someone not to have a kid?
Yeah.
It sounds so backwards. As much as I
Well,
want to be like,
No, I'm fine
hold
telling
on there.
people like if
let's
Hold
you're
not have
on
in
a
a
there.
kid.
bad.
Hold on there.
No.
But no. I just mean like if we're humans and our whole thing is to exist and we exist for existence and all that to reproduce and everything, it's just a wild thing to be like don't have kids. As much as I'm with like the whole thing of like if you can't have kids or you're not like financially in the right place or just for whatever reason you can't take care of a kid, don't have a kid. It's just a wild thing to be like
Hold on there.
don't
Hold
have
on there.
kids.
They just said like you can go places with this. Because I was gonna say there in general, if you're being intentionally reckless,
Yeah.
that should be stigmatized.
Oh
100%.
yeah, no.
We will have the media go out there and grab a guy who has 87 kids with a whole bunch of different women because he's intentionally making a bunch of single mothers there, and like
Yeah.
we will stigmatize that.
No, I'm all for that. I'm just saying like the like it's how do I explain? It's just telling people not to have kids is such a wild thing to me.
Nah,
I'll
I'm
be back
fine
in a
with it.
moment.
For me, it's like if hey,
I'm,
look,
I'm all for it. It's just such a wild statement.
I don't even think it's that wild. Like I know families like in the school system. Like again, I have a lot of family that works in the education system. There's like parents who will just continually have kids. Like I remember hearing a story about one mom who like had like 8 kids and she could barely feed the first one, and like she just kept having kids, and it was like, dude, at that point, I'm okay with forced sterilization. Like you have 8 kids who you can't provide for, who
Yeah,
you just kept like you're putting
yeah.
people in
No,
a bad situation.
that's irresponsible and
You're
stupid.
you're bringing kids into a world that like they're gonna have a bad life. Like why the fuck would you do that to
I
someone? Like
think
I'm okay
majority
at
of
that point.
people
Like
are fit to have kids, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like that's crazy to me. Like I'm fine at that point saying like either you need to get like your tubes tied or like sterilized because like this is just not okay for you to keep bringing kids into this world when you know that they're gonna like live in a bad like life. You know what I mean? The only time I would say don't have kids is when I meet a horrible parent. I've seen this one streamer who's a mother and she was like, kids deserve an ass whooping. I would turn off my webcam and beat up my son because oh Jesus Christ, yeah. At that point, like if you're an abusive parent, just don't have kids. Obviously,
Yeah,
that's a good. I would
yeah.
agree with that. I worked in a health clinic in Southside Chicago for a year and would work with mothers with multiple children, with different last names, and more often than not, it's an extremely saddening reality of how bad their circumstances could get. I would see 10 police cars circling on my 5-minute drive back during my lunch. The neighborhoods that received state assistance would just push the low-income residents out of the area. It's a complex problem, but change starts at the nuclear. Yeah, I
Yeah,
could like. I think that's like a terrible thing that happens, and again, I like see it the same thing like in the education system. It's like you can see these families who like are just in like these bad cycles or like just keep making bad decisions. It's like it's not great, but like it happens, and like we need to find a way to fix that. I think they're complex. Yeah, change starts with the nuclear family. I'm like half with that because like I think like encouraging nuclear families, like kids growing up with 2-parent households and stuff like that is probably like the best. Like having 2 parents in the house is going to be better than having one parent in
Isn't
the
the
house.
nuclear
But
family
like
wait? Okay, isn't the nuclear family more than that though?
is like a mom and a dad type thing.
I think yeah. I think the new. I mean, I may be wrong, but I always envision nuclear family when someone says it's like yeah, the stereotypical
Traditional, yeah.
traditional TV show family of like a mom and dad. Mom stay home, dad go work, kids
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Not
Like
necessarily.
that,
No,
basically.
that doesn't
Yeah,
have
I
to be a
think I
nuclear
think
family.
that's what it might have like used to be connotated as, but usually now nuclear family just means like 2 parents like in the
Parents? Yeah.
household, like like a happy family like with two
Yeah.
parents. And I would agree like having 2 happy parents in a household is always going to be better for kids than having one like I don't want
So
to
what's your
over.
take on a single person that just wants to adopt a kid?
I disagree with it personally. I I know it's maybe a weird stance. I don't like the idea of like kids are always going to do better with like having more people in the household, and that's just like
Hmm.
having more good positive adults in the household is always going to be better for a kid. So having like and having too many parents, like having too many in the household probably also isn't good because you're getting like a lot of misdirection and it's harder for like those parents to communicate to each other. I think having 2 parents like who can communicate and set a good plan for their kids is probably the best way to do it, just because like you're going to have enough income stability, you're going to have enough emotional support stability. Those parents can also communicate with each other and like give like a good plan for the
Right.
child that they're trying to raise. Like I think that's like why like the 2-parent household is so good.
But
And I'm
I was
fine
gonna
with
say
having
there.
like external, like being Asian. We always also grew up in extended families, right? Like you have grandparents in the household, or you might have like your parents' siblings in the household. And I think that's also fine because like we also come from like a culture that like has the it takes a village mentality
Hmm.
because it's like we have like when you're raised in a village, you are raised by everyone in that village. And I think that's also good is like having like external supports other than just your parents. Like I'm really close with the rest of my family, and they also helped raise me, and that I think also contributed to like how well I turned out because like I mean, not to like brag or like, but I think I turned out pretty well for my like, who I am and stuff like that. I'm
Right.
happy with the
But
way I turned out. But like, I think it also comes down to like, I didn't have to my parents didn't have to pay for babysitters because my grandparents took care of us, or like my aunts and uncle helped take care of us. Like, I think these things are
yeah,
all good that contribute to like a healthy childhood.
to engage back with the question there, like there's only two groups of people there that I wonder about having kids.
Hmm.
Generally, is the guys who men and women who just have just ridiculous amounts of children irresponsibly,
Yep.
just
Hmm.
over and over and over again, just
Yep.
intentionally knowing that they're setting up broken families.
I
Hmm.
agree.
And the second group, which will always be controversial, there is if you're super mentally handicapped, and you're marrying another superly mentally handicapped person.
I might
That's
slightly agree with that just because I think you're setting up a kid to like have a tougher life by a
well, I mean,
significant amount.
it's especially bad if you can't take care of yourself, your wife can't take care of herself. You both need handlers, and now
Hmm.
you're both trying to have a kid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
yeah. At that
probably a
point, I would
good real
agree.
thing
Yeah.
to have a kid come to a household that will be able to give them, a
Yeah.
certain amount of support,
Yeah, I would agree.
right?
Like I would agree
And when,
with both of
yeah, yeah.
those.
And so, yeah, yeah.
That's
Um,
kind of like the areas where I go. I don't know. This is kind of falling apart for me.
But the same way that you say that is like that's like the same way I look at when you say this person should have a kid. That like yeah, I agree with that, but it's like a weird thing to say,
Well,
right?
it is bizarre. That's what I said.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
super
yeah, yeah.
controversial.
But that I mean I have the same thing with when saying somebody shouldn't have a kid.
yeah,
It's like yeah, I agree with it, but it's a bizarre thing to say.
yeah, for sure.
Well, it's because you don't really want the government regulating who can have kids and who can't,
Yeah.
because that's a dangerous precedent always.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. I would agree.
My other thing is also just like I mean, just as living things are just here to make more living things, and that's like if everybody's trying to look for a purpose, and that's like the only purpose I've ever seen
Yeah,
is that we have is to make babies and stuff. Um, but with how we have society, it
yeah.
doesn't necessarily work that
Um,
everybody has kids.
yeah. Let me go through the comments again because we had a couple good comments. You make a conscious decisions to have kids 99% of the time. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Our abortion rate's pretty high. I don't know if like 99% of the time people are actually like choosing to like try to have a baby. I think a lot of times it just comes up by mistake,
I
which
think
is
there's
why
more
I'm
than
pro
just one
abortion because I'm
percent
It,
of
like I don't
kids.
want people.
it's do you mind if I interject for a moment there?
Yeah,
Hmm.
Um, I think what he's meaning there is that you're taking actions more or less that you know will create a child.
I mean, yeah, I
So
guess, but
it's not
like
necessarily that you planned
it's
to want to have the kid, but you definitely
now
were.
now we could get into a really weird philosophical conversation though that we actually did have in my philosophy class of like is consent to like sex and like having sex even consent to having a kid, like you know what I mean, like is you
Oh,
having
I know.
like
I'm just saying,
if
like the guy here is he's saying things, but
yeah,
you're
but that's
taking him
that's where I
very
push back.
very.
I would push back on that idea that it's a conscious decision to have a kid. It's like is it
Oh, I know, but you got to define that because you like the part talking to a person is trying to understand what they're trying to say to you.
no, I agree, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm pushing back on that idea of like, because I get what he's saying, but even on that idea, I was like, are most people like just doing the action to like that would create a baby because they like with the idea that like this could possibly happen, or is it like you're not intentionally trying to like have a kid? It's like the
Well,
intention is to like
what
have
would he be
sex.
arguing here is that they don't want the kid, but they're engaged. They're certainly aware it is an outcome.
Yeah,
And so there is an
yeah. I
intentionality
guess there's like I think
in that
that's gonna be a more
regard.
nuanced conversation than yeah.
But you have to like start there and like break it down and go, well, they didn't want the kid, and you consented to sex, but you didn't consent to the kid. Like
Yeah,
now you can start formulating arguments from there. But you got to
yeah.
like need
No,
more
I
to
got what he
start.
was saying. That's what I was saying. I was like replying to like what I assumed he
Well,
was saying.
well, I know you kind of jumped to the end of the argument, and I was like, slow down there.
Okay. It's up to the parents to be able to program a kid to get good grades, not the system. I, again, you would have to assume that like every parent's in a position to like set kids up to like, or be programmed. And I don't know if I like that word of programming kids to get good grades. Asian immigrants push discipline education to the extreme. You can see it in South Korean cultures with extremely high suicide rates. But there's definitely health balance and putting cultural emphasis on good parenting, emphasis on education. Yeah, I would actually like super agree with that. Is like it can go too far, like having parents that are too strict. And my parents weren't that strict, and I still did really well in school. So it shows that like you have to have like a balance like of other things. Like it doesn't just come down to like, oh, really strict parenting will make kids have good grades. Like I think that's like a really like surface
It helps,
level.
but it's not.
It can, but even then, like I know kids who had like really really strict parents and like really emphasized school and stuff like that, like to an nth degree, and those kids just end up hardcore rebelling because they just end up hating their
Oh,
parents.
right. But
Right? Like
what's the key thing missing?
yeah.
But we also know like families that have quote unquote somewhat strict parents, and there can be a kid who gets straight A's, and then they have another kid who kind of just barely
Yeah.
made it through, right?
Because some
So
kids also just need
the
like active.
kid himself is like a big factor too.
Yeah.
Well, they are, but it definitely helps to have a strict parent. But just remember, when you're being strict with your child, it is always important that your child knows you love them.
There's a healthy way
Yeah, there's a
of
healthy
setting
level.
standards.
If your child does not feel that you're acting in their interest, that you care about them, they will rebel.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's a big part of the strict parents here, who they just feel cold, distant. They have these expectations, but they never give love. And I said that's the breaking down point I see when I'm helping people.
Yeah. Let's see. My problem with society's views on sex. It's a throwaway, meaningless thing that people should can take for granted. Mysteriously, the act of reproduction produces people. STDs didn't just go away. AIDS hasn't disappeared overnight. It just needs to be treated with the importance it deserves. I mean, yeah, but that's why we like also encourage like good sex education practice. Like you encourage people to use contraception and like safe sex practices. Like you can have casual sex and not have it be like this like really like insane thing. Like I don't know if like I don't think it should be a throwaway thing because I think sex is like a very like it can be a very sensitive topic for like people involved, right? Like that's why we have like sexual assault that happens by accident because like people just don't know how to engage with sex better. But I also think there just needs to be better conversation around sex, and it's like it shouldn't be a throwaway meaningless thing because it can like be damaging or like harmful or like cause issues for people. But that's why you just need to have better conversations around it, not just like be like just something that you do on the weekends. It's like you should probably be actively engaging with how you engage in the way you engage in sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, but I kind of find it music because that's just another area where I diverge with you.
Yeah.
Because I'm very anti-casual sex.
For me, I think though, like, and from someone on the other end, I've had casual sex and it actually like improved my life, right? Like I've had really good experiences with like the casual sex that I've had, and it's like it actually like was beneficial to my life. So I can also see that end of it. I can see what casual sex. Yeah.
I can't deny you lived experience. I just said like to me there. I look at I don't know. There's two views I have: the interpersonal level and then the societal level, and they're very different views.
Yeah.
So I say I'm against casual sex. That's from a societal level, being that I see, from my understanding, there are a lot more people generating negative experiences and baggage from it.
And for me, I think those issues come from like the bad sexual like engagement we have with like sex and sexual engagement. I think like just the way we hardcore stigmatize talking about it, but like still like a lot like there's kids that I know who can like barely talk about like having sex, but like will still engage in casual sex. I'm like, if you can't even say the word sex in front of your parents, you should not be having casual sex. I'm sorry, but like there's like you've got to have a level of like maturity and understanding going into sexual engagements.
Wait,
that,
what?
Like, what?
Say that again.
You have to have a level of sexual maturity.
No, before that.
Oh, the thing with the parents?
Yeah.
If you can't say the word sex in front of your parents, you probably shouldn't be having casual sex.
I don't think that's completely true, but sure.
If you have you don't have to tell your parents you're having sex, but if you have stigmatized the idea of sex so hardcore in your mind, okay, not even to your parents, to like even like
some ethnic group is
okay, fine. She's
not being super.
Yeah,
she's not being super literal there. She's
I know.
I'm just saying, like, if you can't even say the word sex or like talk about like sex practices with like even like people around you in like a healthy way, you probably shouldn't be engaging in it. And same thing with like people who like if like anybody who I've hooked up with.
Can I just recouch it?
Like there's people who like sorry like let me just make one more point is like there's people who like will want to have like casual sex but like refuse to get an STD test because they think it's like weird or like they feel like oh it's like taboo and stuff like that. It's like no, if you're gonna have casual sex, get STDs tested before and after every sexual encounter. I'm sorry, like that's what you should be doing.
Right. Well, I'm just going to recouch what you're saying there. If you cannot have a sexual conversation in a safe space with your family, your friends, with anybody you trust, when do you suddenly develop the skills to have it with somebody you don't
Yeah,
know?
exactly. 100%. I completely agree with that. There just needs to be
That's what you're
like,
trying to say. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, thank you.
this,
I
we
appreciate
framed
that.
this.
Yeah. 100% agree with that. I briefly worked at a children's mental hospital, and an overwhelming amount of kids were there because they had horrible upbringings. Very rarely were they normal homes or the purely medical reasons. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Upbringing plays a big part in how you turn out later on, right? I mean, I think we all agree with that. Abortion is a majority of the time the last fail safe of a person not wanting to be held accountable for their decisions. Yeah, but like, which again, like my whole thing with abortion is like I don't necessarily like care about the moral thing. Is like sure, like it's ending like a whether you think it's ending a life or not is like would you rather the alternative where like all these kids are being born into like houses where they're not loved, where they're not taken care of, or like ending up in the foster care system, like all these type of things. Like I think the alternative to having an abortion is like much worse. So I don't really care about like the moral
That's
question
kind of
around.
like the.
But the moral,
That's
part of it is like, because if we all agree that
well.
a
Can I?
fetus at like 2 weeks isn't like a human, a baby or whatever, then it's like who cares if you're born or not? At
True.
that
It
point.
sounds. It sounds like you're reading out of an earnest proposal. Do you know
I
what that
mean,
is?
no.
That's 1700s. It's a work of satire, but people didn't understand it was satire. Going that the parents should eat their children if they're born in like poor households,
Yeah.
to keep them from having to live a life of misery.
Hmm.
And like that's like and that it is meant to be satire, and that, but people get super angry. It's like, well, like we're making that same thing here. Like, isn't
I don't
it
think it's
better if you're
satire. I think
aborted
he
rather
like
than having a chance of life because you're going to be in a bad household to avoid a hard life? Like I don't know because it said like we will never know. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. We will never know what their life
I
would have
mean,
been
that's
because they
fine,
just
but if
don't
we end up in a
exist.
society where like people can barely take care of our kids and we just have like rampant poverty and crime rates because like we just have all these like I don't again if you want to maybe on the interpersonal level maybe some of these kids will turn out good but on the societal level like you like to say like there's two different positions here on the societal level it's gonna be much worse off
I
100%
don't know because on that one there, I look at it going, we do have foster care. With
which is
abortion
not
there,
good for most
you
people.
don't.
Uh,
For most stuff going on with abortion there, you don't need to kill the child to end a pregnancy. Um, they can just be pulled out at 27 weeks. They can be pulled out at different stages there. And again, once again, you can put them into the foster care center. Will they have a happy life? Stats don't bear happily, but I mean, it's at least they have a chance.
Hey,
At least they have
I
a
don't
chance.
know if like
if you
having a
don't
chance is
care
better like
about
what about a kid who
abortion,
like sorry, I just want to like propose something back
Yes.
to that. What about like a kid who ends up in foster care, ends up in a really shitty situation, and ends up killing themselves anyway? It's like you have a lot of kids who end up in those situations. Like you could have
Yeah,
like
well,
someone
we can't know in advance.
no, you can't, but you also
When you
can't
take
know
when you
that they
talk
turn
about
out.
the child that you're going to abort, like we don't like it could be anyone with any lived experience, any
Yeah,
life.
I just don't
We
think
don't
sending
know.
like I don't think having mass kids ending up in the foster care system is like a better option than like just
Well,
having
to
like
comment
terminating a
about not
pregnancy.
caring about the moral side. If you're looking at the moral side, then I don't get your comment because like, isn't somebody who had sex and now they're pregnant and then they have an abortion? Isn't that them taking accountability for their actions?
Yeah, if it's like a different
well,
solution, like
sort of to me, no. Like I don't know. It to me, they're like
You
I'm
did
very pro
something and now
birth.
you gotta correct it. And if they,
I'm
I mean,
very pro
no,
birth.
no, that's one thing. But if you don't care about that, right? If you're not pro-birth, right? Wouldn't abortion be a solution to the problem? Isn't accountability just like
I kind of
taking
agree with that
accountable
actually. That's a good
for your
point.
problem and then solving it?
I don't know. I
Because
don't
like
agree
if
with
you
that.
don't consider like because I don't really
I'm not
consider
understand.
like
But if you don't agree with abortion, then yeah, I can get your sense of that. But
yeah
if
No,
you're
I
for
mean, I
abortion,
said even from the stance of if I was pro-choice here, I still wouldn't agree. Just going that's taking accountability. No, I don't see that.
then what
why
is
because
taking
like yeah
accountability?
what do you consider taking accountability like having to take on the
Having a
cost
kid?
having like
That's
yeah
not then. Yeah, then it's the same thing. That's not accountability
Oh, the taking
either.
it's that the taking accountability is what you did beforehand. It's the contraceptive, it's the birth control, it's the
yeah but what if
No,
you like
doing everything
taking
you can.
accountability
That's your
is
accountability stage right there.
taking accountability is doing something and then and then acknowledging it and dealing with the consequences.
Well,
And
I
the
mean,
consequences of
at
having
that point,
sex
they
and getting
acknowledge.
pregnant is have the kid or
So
have an
my thing is
abortion.
like if someone has like one abortion, that's probably accountability. But if you're having like 5 abortions in a month, then you're probably not taking accountability because you're not understanding the consequences of your action and you're just doing the same thing over and over. So I would agree
Again,
that like
this is
That's
this is
my
not
point.
my take on.
the accountability comes from like after a thing happens, you're like, okay, this is a not good thing and I probably shouldn't do this anymore. I'm going to change my behavior. That to me is accountability.
I mean, if you really wanted to, if you know you never want kids, you can have your tubes tied or your.
Yeah, but
Uh,
like that's what I'm saying is like if so, what if
that's
like
another
what if
form of
like
like that would
someone
be
has
a sure
like
form of accountability.
let's say someone has sex and like the condom leaks or like they don't know that it ripped or whatever and like they just like things can happen and it goes off like you know in that situation, like someone has an abortion, that's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure from now on that like, that the condom doesn't rip, or like I'm gonna check after and make sure that like nothing happened, or like just in case I'll take a plan B if I think that it has or whatever, right? Like there's like that to me is accountability, is like making sure you don't make the same mistakes in the future, not just necessarily like with a first time offense. Like again, if you're having like 5 abortions in a month, that's probably not like you're not taking accountability because you're making the same mistake over and over. But someone
Could
who
I?
make the mistakes once and then like changes their behavior based on that, that to me is accountability.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, no, I often think what I'd do because I said I've been big on abstinence, so that's how I've lived my life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's to me I'm not gonna have sex with somebody if I don't want to have kids with them, and if I
Mm-hmm.
really 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 don't want kids, I will just get my I'll have some surgeries done.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that's like a good solution. Like, right, for me, like I probably would think about that in the future because I don't think I ever want kids, and like it was something I look into. But also like procedures are invasive, like, and they can like mess up other hormone cycles. Like for girls who like have like because it's all like tied into your body, so you also have to make decisions there. And it's like I could use contraceptive for the rest of my life, but there's always the chance that that fails. There should probably be a plan B just in case like contraceptives do
It's
fail.
the
Like
sliding
this.
scale of how badly you don't want kids. So that's kind of like one of the ultimate answers of I really I just want this option off the table,
Yes.
and there's benefits and there's cost to it. There's a trade
Yeah.
off you make.
Exactly. Okay, let me go through some of the comments because I let them build up here a little bit. People are not object. Okay, that was still on the last thing. That's what is happening as an individual makes really bad decisions, and the consequences aren't my fault. But it's like, again, like I don't know if there's like a better solution. There's a way to be strict in a positive way. People just aren't smart enough. I mean, yeah, but like you're never gonna make a population smart enough to be always strict in the best way possible. It's not gonna happen. That's not like a realistic solution.
And some people just don't have the resources to be strict. 'Cause, like a
Yeah, but then he was
single.
said to those people, just don't have kids. So
Okay, but there's a lot of households that like after having kids are not in the best situation to
yeah,
continue supporting those kids. But yeah, keep going.
um,
Well, I mean,
it becomes an
with this
ist
stuff,
or an ism, a form of oppression when it clearly is not, but it's an easy out. If a person is below the age of consent, is just simple and solid. No, they shouldn't be experiencing that at all. Wait, like sex?
I mean,
Like you're gonna tell 16-year-olds not to have sex? Have fun with that. We've told them
in
that for
theory
like
that's cool, but yeah, you just
yeah, like for like
it's not a
hundreds of
thing.
years we've
You
tried to say
can't.
don't do that, and like it just never works out. Like you can't just tell people don't have sex.
Because no one's out here telling 16-year-olds to have sex.
Unless you want to
Anyway.
say that like every kid at like every boy at like age 14 gets a vasectomy because like it's reversible or whatever, and like then like when you're like 25 you can have it reversed if you want kids or whatever. Like that's like your only solution, but like other than that you're never gonna have like an enforcement of like abstinence only policy work out for
right?
your society. It just doesn't happen ever.
Well, something I want to add to the mix of the conversation, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like a lot of stuff we're talking is social solutions and things. And in some regards, like, have you guys seen the video by Verasium? There, the man who accidentally poisoned the world.
No.
Um, there are in certain cases biological factors. It's a video about the guy who put lead into gasoline,
Mm-hmm.
and by having lead in the gasoline, it got into the air in dangerous doses. And when it hits people there, it acts like calcium. And it fucks with your brain. It fucks with a lot of things. And so that apparently that guy there, it's I like the video afterwards. It's linked with an increase in criminal behavior around the world for
Yeah.
20 years. And it is generally considered to have lowered the intelligence of the world as a whole.
Hmm.
It is devastating.
I mean, yeah, that
So,
might be true, but then like we just have to adapt like our societies to probably like
well,
deal with
I
that.
just point
Yeah.
out that like there are social solutions, but there are also biological factors at play here.
Yeah.
In this case, don't put a bunch of lead in the air. Very bad idea.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Good tip to the world. Don't put lead in the air.
Well, we had a guy do it
Yeah.
successfully.
Apparently, unfortunately. Let's see. I don't care about the moral side. I care about the self accountability side. Yeah, I would ask you in that case, like, what do you consider accountability? Oh, maybe you said that later on. Sending children to the system helps no one. I agree with that because the system, like foster care systems and stuff, not great. So killing someone is a good enough solution. You guys are really based. I mean, you would have to then consider like terminating a pregnancy as killing someone. Like again, that's all like a moral position. It's a philosophical issue that still hasn't been determined whether it's like you're technically like yeah you're ending a life as in the like organism inside of you is alive, but like do we consider it a human being? Does it have rights? Does it have moral consideration standing? Like these are all questions that aren't determined. And to act as if like oh you're just killing someone or this is murder is like kind of stupid when we like I like I don't know. To me it's just like a it is no it's not it is not killing someone like again you would have to like there's you don't have proof of that if you can divine what a human being is and like why we should give like an unborn like fetus moral consideration I would be interested in your argument but I don't know if you can give that argument.
Well, that was the debate and that Destiny had recently with the four lawyers.
Oh, I watched half of it. I haven't finished it. I watched like half of it earlier today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Where like with common law and stuff.
Where does life begin?
Yeah. Yeah. So like,
but again,
it,
it's
it
like
goes back and forth.
it hasn't been determined, right? Like, there's no definitive answer on this, not from science, not from philosophy. Like, nothing has been determined. So to act as if like, oh, this is murder, it's like you're killing someone. It's like no, this is like you're an appeal to emotion, but you're not really proving anything
Well,
by
that's
saying that.
sort of kind of everything because I mean, murder itself is a bit, I don't know, socially constructed there.
I mean, it is, but we consider like if you kill
the
a
difference
human,
between killing a 9-month-old child and a 9-month one, like one just the day before it was in the womb, the day it's after.
well,
any
not
murder
even that,
post.
but we consider like killing a human different than killing like an animal, right? Like these are like
Yep.
substantially different things. It's like sure, everything's a social construction, but like murder can clearly be defined as like the killing of a human being, like a living human
Well,
being.
I know. It's just
Yeah.
like we don't know the exact time a point becomes human, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's not super distinctly different between killing a child that's one day from being out
Yeah,
of the womb and
100%. I
one
would
day.
agree. Yeah, yeah.
Like so, at some point it happens. We just don't have a concrete date.
Yeah. But the thing about it is that even if we did have one like a concrete date of like when we consider it to be a baby or a human life or whatever, people are still gonna
Yeah.
Well, always.
Yeah.
Well,
fight against
people's
that.
It's a
opinions
really hard
are
thing to determine.
always
Yeah.
the spectrum. Everyone has a spectrum of opinions on literally everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that might help with like laws and stuff, but it's not gonna help with public perception.
Get
Yeah.
two people to agree on what freedom of speech is.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I mean, even that, if you watch that lawyer debate, it was really interesting because they brought up the idea of like, what was it? Oh, like how like whether burning a flag can be covered by freedom of speech. Like that was like a like a right that came out of freedom of speech. Like the right to burn a flag is like it's not necessarily like in the wording of like freedom of speech, but we still consider like it part of freedom of speech, right? So it's like that thing of like how far can we stretch the limits of a law? I thought that was a really interesting
that
point
always
that came
goes
up in
to
the
the
debate.
conversation is it artistic nudity? Is it is it freedom of speech?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's like there's all these things that you could like what are the limits on these things? Let me keep going through these comments because otherwise I'm gonna fall really really behind.
I'm telling you, this nude Ed and Eddie art of mine here. This is my speech.
Yeah.
You can't block my
The
speech
furry
in
porn
Discord.
on
I was on-
Patreon is
I was
all
on
freedom of speech, okay?
I was on TikTok today, and there was just a lady straight up
Breastfeeding?
breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And
Oh
then
my god.
and then the baby, stopped, and then it was just a nipple hanging, and I was
Yeah,
like, damn,
dude,
this
it's
is it's
crazy.
on here.
Dude, TikTok is like sometimes you'll just like be scrolling and all of a sudden like a woman breastfeeding pops up and like
Yeah.
you just see a full ass nipple on your page and you're like, oh okay, cool.
I'm like, where are these lines? I don't
Yeah.
I don't see these guidelines anywhere.
Okay, let me keep going through the comments quick. Who benefits
for
the most from people having self accountability? Women, not women. not women having self-accountability, but men having it. Maybe I'm dyslexic, but I don't know if I understood that sentence. Not women having self-accountability, but men having it.
Who benefits the most?
Again, you would also have to
People
define what you think
accountability,
self-accountability is, because like for me, accountability would be changing your behavior after like an action happens, right? If you act like, if you're in a situation you have to get an abortion because like something like went wrong in a sexual encounter, like a condom broke, your plan like birth control isn't like a birth control isn't 100%,
I kind of think I know what you're saying, but it's like phrased really weirdly.
Well, they're saying that self-accountability is literally applied only to the male gender.
Well, yeah.
That's kind of bizarre.
But I don't.
I understand what you're saying. I just
that the only person that benefits from self-accountability is women.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with any part of that statement.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if you want to try to touch on in more detail.
Yeah, if you could expand on that, we could try to.
Yeah, I feel like there's like something that we're missing from that too.
Yeah.
Generally, in conversations, it's better to stay away from absolute statements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say I have a solid stance on abortion, but if I'm being honest, I would want it to be last available option if I were born the other sex. People make mistakes and shouldn't have their lives ruined for no one's perfect. Yeah, remember. That's what I agree with.
Did this person say they worked in social care or some shit?
I think so.
Like that?
But I would agree with this. It's like if you have like an abortion, like if you have to have like if you're in a situation where you have to have like one abortion because like something went severely wrong, then like that should be an option that's open to you. But I think if you're in a situation where you having multiple abortions within a year or within a short period of time, there probably needs to be something else that changes in your life because like you're making the same mistake over and over and over. And I don't know if that's like something we should like, but then again, like if someone's making that stupid of a mistake over and over and over, I also don't want them to have a kid. You know what I mean? Like if you're making a dumb of a decision as that, like I also don't want a child under your care.
But what do you do? Like, hey, 3 abortions with a span of a year. All right, tie them tubes up now.
I would agree with that, but I just don't think you can ever justify it.
Yeah, you can't get rid of that.
I've always wanted to have that as like a premise for a horror story. Just a mother who's had like 5, 6, 8 abortions, has one kid there, and it's just haunted by the ghosts of.
There was a cartoon like that made by a conservative like cartoon artist. And it was just like the most cringe
the problem
thing,
is that you don't make it political. You just make a good horror movie.
Yeah, but it was just kind of.
That's a wrong.
I think it's going to be inherent. I don't think you could make that horror movie without it being inherently political. To be honest.
Well, I mean, people.
I would say that it will do great in certain states.
True.
Well, yeah, I can't help that people would politicize it, but it'd be an entertaining. Interesting.
I think it'd be entertaining, but I think it would be inherently.
It would also be a great Family Guy episode.
Horror.
Yeah. Well, you can also make comedy out of it. Yeah, horror and comedy work very well together.
True. What do you guys think of Ben Shapiro? I think he's a dumbass. I think he's someone who likes to use big words to make himself sound smart, but when you look at the content of any of his arguments, they fall apart really quickly.
In high school, the people I hated most were those kids that just did not raise their hand or anything, but had like a comment for everything the teacher says and about like just spell it out. And Ben Shapiro just gives me that vibes. So
I do happen to be conservative. I don't listen to Shapiro. I don't listen to Louder with Crowder. I didn't really listen to Rush Limbaugh. I don't know. I was not interested in Red Meat.
It's kind of funny because I'm like left wing and I like Crowder when I was younger.
The second guy you mentioned, is that the dude who goes to like colleges or whatever and sets up a table?
Yeah, Louder with Crowder. Okay. Yeah.
I don't really watch any of their channels because I would rather hear like what the independents, the center, the Democrats say. Like I already know the right-wing positions. Why do I want to have it hammered into my head every day?
For me, I had the opposite where I was like more left-wing, so I like to watch like certain right-wing creators because I like to see arguments from the other side. And I actually appreciated the Crowder sequences because I liked the idea that he sat down with people until I realized that like, okay, he probably gets a lot. He does. I mean, it's the editing. It's the fact that he comes like super prepared and like. But I also still think
he baits a lot of people into certain.
Yeah, I also think that like the discussions themselves are probably good to have even on college campuses, especially where people like highly disagree with you because college campuses are typically more left wing.
Yeah, the concept is cool.
Yeah.
Well, in general, what you're looking for is discussion over debate.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Fair discussion.
Yeah, fair discussion and good faith debate because I don't know if Crowder necessarily goes with like good faith.
I've rarely ever seen good faith debate that I'm starting to believe it doesn't exist.
Yeah, only reason I watch is Destiny stream because like I feel like he like
debates. That's anything to do with debate because I mean, you ever talk to someone who's from like a debate club or anything? It's like they look at debate as just having to be right, not finding what is right. But when people go into debate, they just want to be right.
That's why there's one. Oh god, fucking Demon. I can't stand her. Oh my god, I used to hate watch her, and I can't like. I like hate watching certain people because it's sometimes a little fun to hate watch somebody. She is so bad, I can't even hate watch because it actually makes me so angry that I end up clicking off after like 3 minutes of her videos.
It's funny. The one thing I've not had on here is I initially came here just to the first conversation I wanted to have with you, and I haven't had it yet. Is just on how to make better discourse because I just watched debate after debate and going, these are
Terrible.
awful.
I mean, that's why I like watching Destiny streams because as much as people hate on him, I think he's like one of the better debaters out there. I think he acts really in good faith. He tries to like engage with people's like actual arguments. I like watching his videos for that reason and that reason alone, pretty much.
I mean, it's because a lot of his debates involve discussion. It's amazing, where he will just sit and listen, and he will think about it, and he'll go, "I don't know." Debaters never say, "I don't know."
Yeah. Anyway, okay, sorry, I gotta keep going through these comments because I'm gonna like lose. What do I think should happen would be severely authoritarian. The minor has to have an abortion, and the guy, if not a minor, becomes a registered sex offender and is incarcerated. I mean, I would also, I mean, I don't know if I'd force the abortion on a minor just because I think that should still be an individual choice. But like, yeah, if you're an adult having sex with a minor, I think you should be incarcerated as well. I don't know if anyone's gonna disagree with that. If you have sex with a minor and you're not a minor, then fucking hell, sex offender. Would you let the double standard exist if a woman is a few weeks pregnant, ends up in a car accident due to a negligent driver, she survives but miscarries due to injuries? Is that murder? I don't think that's... Honestly, I don't think that should be.
Oh, that actually is, though.
Some places, yes, that can be considered double homicide. But also, I think sometimes it depends on like whether you... fuck, it's a really hard topic.
Look, it's not... It might not be murder, but definitely something that needs to be...
Well, it depends if you're talking morally or legally. Because legally, in a lot of states there, if you murder a pregnant woman, you get hit with 2 murder charges.
But I think
if a
that
woman
also comes down to, like,
alcohol to
I'll be honest, I
mess
think
up a child.
when it comes to like law stuff, you can like apply intent. And so like if the mother intended to like have that child and wanted to have that child, then you could probably say it counts for a little bit more to like take that away from her. Like if you steal something off someone's property and they don't really care about it, like you're not really gonna make a big fuss, and it's not really a big deal if they steal it because like you didn't want it anyway, right? It's not. Is it really theft if you take something?
No, I don't agree with that. That's still theft.
A second
it's
case
still
there
theft,
would be,
but no one's gonna charge you with it, right? But like,
if your wife wants to have a child and she's intentionally drinking alcohol to give the child problems, that is lawsuit territory as well.
Yeah, you can be. You watched the debate earlier. Yeah, you can sue somebody, but you don't have the right to like not have like your mother drink while you're in the womb, right? Like that's not a fundamental right.
Well, we're not talking about fundamental rights. We just said it's lawsuit territory. That
it's
is protected.
Lawsuit territory, yeah, but you know, so...
because there are laws on the books. It's not derived straight from the Constitution, but there are states with laws on the books for that.
Yeah, there are some states you can't, some states you can.
Yeah, well, 50 states.
I think in Canada, I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't know if I've ever heard.
Sabrina, what did you say about drinking with the baby in the womb?
If you drink, he brought up the example of like if a mom drinks with like a child in the womb, that you like that child can later on sue the mother if they end up with like handicaps and stuff like that.
Right.
But like that's only in some states, and I don't think it is in Canada. But I could look into that. I don't know. I've never heard of it.
To put it another way, since I looked a lot of election data, our 50 states can't agree on anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair,
when you originally said it, I thought you meant like a guy can sue a woman for drinking alcohol.
Oh no.
Baby.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Okay. Cool.
I'd have to look into that if the husband can sue as well for
I feel like both sides. It's a ground to sue, but
yeah.
Because like especially if the wife has expressed clear intent to have the child, so she's just intentionally messing up the child.
Yeah.
Also, I think even with like the car accident thing, I think it could be like. Because if she miscarries due to injuries, I think it could be manslaughter, but I don't even think that'd be murder if, like... Yeah, anyway, because there's, like, some level of intent. Also, murder charges change from state to state. Like, Canada's murder definition is different from other places. It's hard to, like, look to...
Well, I mean... but I was good to say there that, like, looking at election data, man, not every state has counties. We've got states with parishes. It's a mess. If you ever get bored, look at Virginia and what they did.
Yeah. You can't say killing
Virginia's counties make no sense.
Yeah. You can't say killing a clump of cells is not murder. You're literally a clump of cells yourself. Did I ever say clump of cells? I said fetus. I make sure to always say fetus. I never say clump of cells because, yes, every human is a clump of cells. I always say fetus because, like, I was like, you have to like prove that killing a fetus is the same as killing a person, because I'll never like, maybe I did say clump of cells, and in that case I misspoke, but I try not to use the term clump of cells because everything is a clump of cells. Everything that exists is just clumps of cells. Anything living is clumps of cells. But
Also, we're
like,
not saying murder is wrong. We're saying murdering a person is wrong.
yeah, but you'd have to like prove that like murdering a
Murder
fetus is,
animals all the time.
yeah, exactly. Um, freedom of speech legally and freedom of speech on the simpleton level entirely different. Yeah, but I mean, depending on which conversations we're having, right? Self accountability so far as child support, and the guys just being deadbeat dads. Yeah, but I'm asking like in terms of like abortion and stuff. Like, are you saying the only way to have accountability for like a pregnancy that happens is to like go through with having the child? And in that case, like, would you have to take care of the child because you brought it into this world? Like, how far does your accountability goes? Does adopting out like still not like count as accountability still? Even though you're
For me, I
deciding
would
not
say
to
yes.
take.
I would say as long as you if you give the child a chance,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
I
like
think that's
like
fine because if you know you hate the child, if you know you're going to be bad to the child, don't keep a child that you're going to be awful to or can't take care of.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like it's hard to like draw that line of accountability because everyone's definition is going to be different, but also like to sit there
Well,
and say
that's why
like
you draw the line where the majority can fit. And I said like the majority can fit here that if you have the child, um, that's the baseline. Like if you can go
I
above and
mean, yeah,
beyond,
but not even all
great.
of like not even
But
most America agrees on that. Like it's usually a pretty 50-50 split on whether like you should be able to abort. So like
no,
even
we're talking about like like on the agreement position. If you happen to agree here, the
yeah.
baseline would be at least birth, and then adopt if you really don't want the child. If you really
Yeah.
just don't want it, if you know you're going to be
But then,
bad,
like,
and
what I'm saying is, like, the same argument that you could say for like having the child is being accountable compared to like if you think that like having an abortion is not having accountability, but like giving birth to a child is accountability. I think you could still extend that argument to like, oh, adopting out is not accountability, but keeping the child is accountability. You know what I mean? Like, I think you could
I mean,
still use
people
that.
could make that argument, but I go, you did the baseline, you give the child a chance.
Yeah, I just think
That's
like I don't know. Because then I could also say that like by putting it into foster care, you're like
like
statistically probably giving it a like worse situation than you would at like in your own
I
house, right?
still want an Infinity War recut here where Thanos here is not it's not somebody got 50% of the universe. He's just I don't know time travel just abort some historical figures. No, they were aborted.
Yeah.
They weren't born, so it wasn't murder.
I
They
mean,
just
yeah.
ceased to exist.
But like the difference between like that and like if you're talking about like Thanos snapping people, like it is murder because you're stopping like the progression of a life that already exists, right?
Well, I was thinking Infinity War. I screwed up on the analogy. I was like, it's just another concept that's bopping around my mind for a while. It's just a movie where you have just a group of time travelers that go back in time and just convince parents of political enemies and stuff to just abort them.
Oh,
And so it's like it's not murder because the mother chose to abort them now after being talked and convinced.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting premise and also a warning for don't develop time travel. This would totally be a thing.
Oh yeah, true. I also don't agree with time travel. I think it's sketchy stuff. I think we see how bad it happens in movies, and I think bringing that into the real world would be terrible. But anyway, I just want to continue. I'm gonna finish off these comments really quick. Um, guys just being deadbeat dads. Self accountability so far is child support, and guys. So the loudest and most cringy of conservatives aren't all conservatives, but that's what people see. And likewise, yeah, exactly. It's always like the loudest, dumbest fuck people online because moderates are never loud. Like that's the thing. Is like the majority of people are probably pretty moderate, but they're just not the loud, like expressive types. Like the people who have like these big personalities are the ones who make it big on like people like Ben Shapiro or people like Crowder. Like they're a little bit more insane than the average person, but that's also what makes them like adapt to like social media and like media platforms because it's like they have these big personalities that are really intense and they can like do the online thing, right? But they're not moderate people because, and I just think those like, it was like the thing we talked about earlier where it's like political leaders might be more likely to be bad people just because like the role that they're in calls for being like like maybe a worse person, right? Or like worse people can like more likely get into those roles. And I think it's the same thing with like big media figures is like the most extreme do really well because like it's just easy as an extreme person to do really well.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I look for is just people that strike me as honest. I don't have to
Yeah.
sit there and fact check everything they're saying.
You're just you're a not very common type of person, I'll say. I think a lot of people just look for like entertainment and then things that reinforce the views they already have.
Yeah, I'm from a very Republican family, so I mean, like, like there's only so much you can beat in your head before you're like, yeah, I know, I
I
got it,
got it.
I
I
got
got
it.
it. You're fine. Yeah. My dad's pretty conservative. Like, and I think he's, I don't know, some things he's gotten more progressive and some things he's gotten like much more conservative on over the years. Whereas my mom is like pretty dead center, and it just kind of depends on what issue she asks you about, or like you ask her about. But my mom's pretty dead center, maybe if anything. Actually, she's probably a little bit more left, just like on general societal views. And then me, I'm probably like the most left in my family. My brother falls somewhere between me and my mom. I don't know. It just depends. My brother's more left on some things, more right on some. It's like my whole family's like very nuanced about these things.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, which
that's
is kind of nice. I grew up with that like very like conversational family of like everyone had different ideas and we would all talk about it all the time, which was cool.
yeah.
But
I like
yeah,
growing up, I thought I was liberal, to be frank.
yeah,
Like I didn't know, like I could say I lived with my extended family for a while,
hmm
and they were all Democrats, and my teachers were, and I just Um, like it wasn't until I poked my head in at about 2015 that I really started really considering things
mm.
and found myself to be. I call myself conservative, but I'm probably center right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've had
Uh,
Sabrina try explaining to me a couple times what all that means. I don't know what it
he
means
still
still,
doesn't know
so
the difference between left and right. This man, I will,
no.
you know,
I
I
just
have a lot of
know one is one hand, the other is the other hand.
Yeah, I have a lot of libertarian positions, depending, like especially when it comes to art.
yeah,
That was our previous debate there, where I was trying to like bring up the position of organic diversity versus forced diversity. I'm
yeah.
like where I think
I
one you get what you want and everybody wins. The other one is the trash we currently are living in.
there's one thing I want to make a whole stream about, but it's my issue with like people conflating political oh, how do I explain this? Political means with political parties in the sense that like people are like conflate like, oh, communism is automatically oh, let me actually no. Let's like far right extremist is automatically authoritarian. Like authoritarian can only be like right wing, or like socialism
You,
can only be left wing. It's like no,
you talk
these are
about the
two.
Bosch defense.
I don't know. I have no idea. But my
Bosch is all Republicans are evil. They're just all
oh yeah,
fascists.
100%. He's a fucking moron. I saw that clip earlier. But yeah, my issue is like people will say like, but like people don't understand the difference between like political ideas and political parties versus like political means and motives, right? Whereas like socialism is a political mean of like a way that a society can set up in a political sense, right? Like it's a type of system, like political system. Whereas like it can be left or right. Like socialism can be left or right. It doesn't matter. Same with fascism and fascism, authoritarianism. These are modes of political. What's the word? Sorry, it's like almost 3 a.m. for me. It's like means of political engagement. Whereas like your ideas, like left or right, like you know, like whether you're conservative or progressive, are like actual like ideas of your policy, right? And then people tend to conflate the two things like a lot. I need to like flesh out these ideas, but I want to do a stream on it because it really bothers me when people conflate the two.
Right. That would Amazing Atheist had done a piece on that.
Oh, has he? Okay.
Coltane did a piece on that. And it's yeah, no, it's a big topic to talk about because
Yeah.
people are a mixed bag. Even Tim Pool has covered that
Yeah.
repeatedly.
People just don't
With the
understand how these terms work. I think a lot of the times, and like just don't understand them at all. It's like when it's like, yeah, and I
well
don't think,
that you can be Amazing Atheist said you can be conservative but have all these progressive values and all these Democrat values because we're misusing the labels.
yeah. Well, not
Everyone's
even that.
collecting
I just
random
like
points.
again, people don't know the difference between political ideas and party versus like political means and modes of and systems, right? Like they're like two fundamentally different things, but they get conflated. Like everything's a political idea or political party, right? But people don't realize
Yeah.
you can be fascist on the left and you can be fascist on the right, but like people automatically ascribe that to the right.
Well, that one there is very true. Like this one's an interesting topic, but yeah, I was going to give a hot take.
Where you think it can only exist on the left?
No, just a slight pivot there because we were talking about social communism stuff. I was going to say there, I am capitalist, to a degree, like never go full capitalist. But I was going to say there, Jesus is pretty socialist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like it's not about accruing wealth; it's
Mm-hmm.
about taking care of your neighbor. Rich people
100%.
have a difficult time to get into heaven.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, I'm going to read the last few comments and I'm going to wrap up stream because it's almost 3 a.m. for me, but I'll go through. Ben Shapiro proved that a fetus is just as important, valuable as a full grown human being. I don't think he's proved that. You can
He may
send
have
me the link.
articulated it well, but no proof.
Yeah, you can send me the link, but like it's not proof. It's not scientifically proven and it's not philosophically proven. And you could probably give 100 arguments because Ben Shapiro doesn't allow himself to be pushed back on by like people who are actually like intelligent. That's why he speaks on college campuses. That's why he only engages with college kids. It's because he actually won't like defend his ideas to people who could actually like push back on his ideas in a like in a really like strong manner, right? And so like you can send me the video and maybe I'll spend a day just like making up replies to it and like adding like counter examples to anything he does. But send me the thing on my Discord is probably the best place to send me links and stuff. I'll watch the video and I will maybe do a reply to it later on. But yeah, I don't it's not a settled question whatsoever. Social media in the West contributed to that problem. Oh shit, I don't remember what we were talking about. Oh, I think this was like on the idea that we like the political parties versus political means and modes of systems. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you're referring to, absolutely. Because social media has just perpetuated echo chambers and dumb people online. Sorry. Very, very. This is my black pill take, okay? I think everyone online is stupid, except for me.
That's how it always works.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I'll send you a few links to some of the things I cited earlier.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can check them out at your leisure.
That'd be great. Thanks.
And do you want another animation or two?
Sure, why not? I'll watch them before I go to bed. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to say goodnight to you, and then I'm going to just do my regular wrap up for stream. So,
Thanks for inviting me in.
yeah, no, thanks for coming on. I'll talk to you later, man. Bye.
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 Okay, you still here?
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna wrap up stream. This was a really good chat. I'll probably upload this to my YouTube tomorrow. But yeah, anyone who's still hanging out, I have a Discord that you can join down below and recommend topics or just talk to me, ask my opinions on things. Any of that type of stuff if you want to. I like reply to everyone who's on my Discord. So, oh, thank you for the follow. Yeah, anyone who's in there. So, you can always send me messages on there. You can ask me to like, if you want to come on stream and debate about stuff, you can also message me there. We can set up a topic to talk about. I do all that type of stuff, so it's a good place to get a hold of me. I also have a Twitter linked, but I don't use it. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to send me a DM on there. I'll try to check it, but I just don't use Twitter that much. But it's also another place to follow me and get in contact with me if you need to, or want to. Oh goodness! Right at the end of stream. Thank you. I'll hydrate before bed. But yeah, this was a really good stream, so I appreciate everyone hanging out and contributing to the conversation. I actually really enjoyed this, but I think I'm going to, thank you, Psychologist. I hope I'm saying that right. I also just like make up words in my head. I read something and I'm like, that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up stream because I'm tired. It's almost 3 a.m. and I don't have school tomorrow, but I should probably start working on like homework and shit because my semester just started. But yeah, I'll talk to everyone. Hopefully in a couple of days, maybe Saturday night, hopefully. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I'll be back soon. Good night, guys. Bye.